It is undoubtedly 2 p.m. No, it's 13:58 is what it is. It's 2 minutes to 2. But I'm here. And anyway, it is 2 o'clock and we're on to the Sunday service. So welcome to it. Welcome to the Sunday service. It's good to have you all along. Already stuff coming in. Already text coming in. Thank you very much for all the text. Patrick Walsh was here at 1:45. He's cleaning out his shed while he's waiting for the Sunday service down at Kerry. It is raining here in Laois as well. Sporadic showers. Some sort of thunderstorm stuff is actually forecast later on as well. So it's just one of them days. I'm afraid we have to get used to the kind of Irish weather is back. The good weather has disappeared for a little bit. Thank you very much for rocking up again today. Share the live, please. That'd be brilliant. Just lets YouTube know what's happening. And it lets the algorithm, this mythical, beautiful algorithm that comes along and sprinkles its fairy magic over the top of you and actually makes you money, also lets that thing know this is happening as well. I have both my phones armed today in case anyone's sending me messages from other places. Anyone who thought today was going to be not Junction 14, but Athy Summer Vibes got a surprise of their life because that was cancelled. Couldn't make any headway down Athy. The people of Athy didn't want to do it. The business of Athy thought it was a great idea. The Gardaí down Athy didn't seem to agree with them, and there seemed to be a lot of problems to go with it, so we pulled out of that area, and now we're going for the 31st of this month in Junction 14, which is the official meet time, because Junction 14 does have all of the car meet stuff sorted out. We have full permission to take it over. There is tickets available on Eventbrite if you want to have special parking, right? So we're creating a special drive-in area for people who want to bring an unusual car, maybe something a little bit more exotic, and a special area where you can park your car where people won't be interfering with it over to one side of everyone else. Everyone else has to take their chances of whatever car park space to get. We're hoping to get some donations on the night as well, but that could be €2, it could be €10, it could be 20, whatever you want to put into the pot, and it all goes to Barrettstown Camp, every penny of it on the night. So hopefully you will be able to get there on the night, the 31st of July, 7 p.m. 7 to 10 is when we're running for. It was a great night last time we did it in Junction 14, along with Kildare Car Scene and Republic of Motors. So hopefully you guys will be able to come along as well. If you want to bring any cars available, by the way, it doesn't matter what the car is. You don't have to have anything special, you don't have anything exotic or modified or a Ferrari or whatever. It doesn't matter what the car is. Bring it along. It's all for charity. And it's all about meeting like-minded individuals who like your kind of taste in vehicles and maybe be into it. Paddy Common's here as well. Good man, Paddy Common from the AA. In case you're wondering where Paddy Common came from, he has moved his employment from Volkswagen Ireland to the AA. The AA.ie is Paddy Common. And you'll find him over there on Instagram as well if you want to talk to him. He's reviewing cars as well. You see, he's back to the love of cars, has come back again, and Paddy Common has returned into it and is more than welcome back into it as well. Some videos popping out from Paddy here and there, so keep an eye on that. The AA.ie, it's on Instagram if you want to go and follow that one. I'm sure a YouTube channel will appear out eventually. Eric Rochard's here as well. Eric Rochard, we love you, Eric, you know that, don't you? Eric has a spanner behind his name because he's an admin as well here, so he'll kick your ass if you get out of line, but you can do it if you want. Sean Hughes, just wonder what your thoughts are on a new Hyundai Tucson plug-in hybrid. I think electric is, if I was going to plug in hybrid, for me, if I was going to plug in hybrid, I would probably go all the way electric because it would suit me down to the ground. They are still a bit expensive, but then a plug-in hybrid is not far behind it because the grant is now gone, not gone, but it's halved from what it used to be on a plug-in hybrid. So you now only get $2,500 of a grant for a plug-in hybrid, where you used to get $5,000. Now that essentially actually pushes down the value of all the cars by $2,500, but that's different matters. That's devaluation purposes. But the Tucson actually looks okay. I think it looks a bit busy on the front. I think there's a lot going on. I think there's nicer looking cars than the Tucson out there. It doesn't really matter what I say about Tucson. It'll probably sell in numbers because Hyundai Ireland have a habit of sort of buying the proposition of selling stuff. But the car itself looks okay. Sooner or later I get a test of it from some dealership or other. But I kind of down tools on a dealership drives because it's unfair on the journalist and it's unfair on the dealership because it puts the dealership under pressure and it puts the journalist under pressure to be nice about the dealership. And I think that relationship is questionable at best as to what kind of reviews you get out of it. And so I only do it when I really, really have to, or I think I can get a better drive out of it, or it's a friend of mine and I know what I'm getting into before I even start. So I will only review cars when I think it's the right thing to do in the interest of consumer stuff. So I tend to stay away from the dealership box. So I haven't driven the Hyundai Tucson plug-in hybrid, but I do like the look of it. I think it's okay. I think Kia tend to offer a little bit better value when it comes to the 7-year warranty, 150,000 kilometers range warranty. And they tend to offer better packs and things, so a little bit cheaper, a little bit more affordable, and it's exactly the same car, built in the same factory. Greetings from a very wet car. Oh, well, Niall, I was down in a car a few weeks ago. It was a lovely little place to go, actually. Great little petrol station on the edge of it, which I quite like the look of. Went in, and it was like empty at the back, where it used to be a chip shop or something at the back. And it was all emptied out. They had these little taped out areas so you could walk through it to get to the other side so you go to the toilet. It's funny to see how things are happening. Peter Cupid's here as well. Another Sunday roll on 2 p.m. Thank you very much, GC. United Extras here too. We shot forward there a little bit. Lancashire. Anyway, hello, Bob. Just out of the rain over here in Lancashire. Well, it's the same here. It's kind of stretching its way across. If you want a good weather app, by the way, it's a weather app I use a lot. And it tells me on the weather forecast and the rain. And it's the Weather Channel, IBM business app, that one. Siri uses this as well when you ask about the weather. But actually, if you go into it, you can see radar. So you actually see where you are, and it shows you radar. I can't see if that works or not, you can see it, but you can see the radar of the rain going across. I use it for filming all the time. Every time I go out, you don't want to be raining and filming at the same time. It's no good. So we get rid of it. And we put it in the weather app so we don't have to be out there and mess around it. Oh, did you have... Okay, so Paddy says they do have a YouTube channel. AA does have a YouTube channel, but no followers yet. The hardest thing in the world to do is build followers on YouTube. Never get this made by YouTube. I'm literally taking part in a number of smaller YouTube channels out there. It is the hardest thing to grow a channel. Kiri's Car Store, the AA, you know, I'm like, you get involved in other people's ones, and everybody thinks that they look at your channel where it's like 67,000, past 67,000 recently, like yesterday. And they look at it and they go, wow, I want to get that kind of level. But that took a long time, and it takes a long time to push the subscribers. It's very hard to do, to be honest with you. I'm happy with the level of subscription at the moment. The reason you want more is because YouTube pays you more. That's essentially it. Pentagram Motorsports. Afternoon, Bob, from Steve, your newest patron. Hi, Steve. Got your message with the Patreon. Thank you very much. You can Patreon your way too, as well as list the links in the bio. Patreon, PayPal, or just subscribe, which is the cheap way of doing it. You can also go over to bobflavin.com if you want. I made these stickers. We're nearly sold out of these stickers. They were for van people, only vans. Because I did a TikTok one time. It was only vans. You can buy them there. They're £2 on bobflavin.com. Just have a search around for them. They're there, right? There's other stuff too. Hoodies are out of stock. T-shirts are coming in stock next week. There is other stickers available as well if you want to get them. There's just stickers at the moment, but I'll have T-shirts next week with the Bob Flavin logo and Irish car scene stuff written on them. So there's loads of action over on bobflavin.com as well if you want to get over there. And if you want a review or two there, I might do something like that. Donica says he's going to be watching the Grand Prix. That's fine, yeah. Men have to learn how to do things, you know, multitask. You can leave the Grand Prix on the background, be watching that, turn it up and down, listen to this as well. This is always done as a radio show, so you can listen to this. It's fine not to see it like. You can also, on YouTube Premium, you can play music and stuff in the background without actually having the app open, so you don't have to watch the video part. It's the only benefit as far as I can see from YouTube thing. And I ended up with 12 months Apple TV because I bought a new phone, so I bought an iPhone. And they gave me 12 months Apple TV. I had to talk to Apple Help about that one, but I got it. And there's nothing on it that I can find that I haven't already seen. Handy to rent videos from, but like, really? You pay for 12 months, there's not a whole lot there to watch. Long Way Up was really good, but I've watched that already. We have Amazon Prime, and we watched a good movie last night, something about No Tomorrow, something about Tomorrow World or something I think it was called. Really good movie last night, actually. Nice little audio. Edward out of here says, hi Bob, misting here in Clare. Yeah, Clare's getting the edge of it. It's all kind of down south, but it's moving your direction, so it's coming along the way. Hi Mick Mulcahy and Graham Cullen. Chrissy B says, hi Bob, question for the Skoda Scala. Good little car that. I know it didn't get great reviews, but I actually kind of like the Scala because it's so much room in it. And it's soft, and it's just a nice thing to drive. 1.5 engine on a manual transmission. Does it solve the delay you mentioned when you tested the automatic? Looking to replace my wife's Astra. Chrissy, the thing is, it was kangarooing was the problem that we had with the Skoda, which was in taking off from a junction. The stop-start would cut in, and then it would kind of bounce forward. It would do this bouncy thing. Now they solved that with a software update, and it didn't really affect the manual half as much because you're in control of the clutch, so you won't get quite as many problems with it. But just check to make sure it's had its recalls and everything's done and everything's up to date before you buy it. That's essentially it. You can check on the service history, or you can get Skoda, the service, the garage, to check the history, make sure all the recalls are done in the car, and after that you're sorted. Shouldn't be a problem. Peter, U-Cars here again. Hi Bob, hope you keep well. It's good to see you back. Any update on the MG EV? The MG EV has gone back. We were supposed to have it for 12 months. We had it for 6 months because they're sold out. Essentially, the fact is that all electric cars are very short supply, and so they needed them back to sell them on. So we give it back. We're back into the Seat Leon. I wasn't thrilled with driving the car, if I'm dead honest. They're cheap. There's a reason why I felt a little bit seasick, and I mentioned that in a couple of videos as well. Coming off a speed bump, there's so much weight under the car, and the suspension is kind of cheap as well, so the whole thing kind of bounces along a bit. Just for a second. You get a much better ride in Volkswagen's ID4. I know they're more expensive. ID3. Even things like the Renault Zoe has really good ride and handling in them compared to the MG. The car is fine. It's cheap. It's big and it's cheap at the same time. They're okay, but it's gone for me now. I didn't think we were saving a whole lot in the difference either, if I'm honest. Tax, yes. But actual fuel, I'm not so sure we're saving a whole lot, to be honest. We used to put like 20 quid a month into the Leon anyway. Anyway, the Leon's back on the road. It's now cost us. We got 4 new tyres. We did a full service down a place called Daltons.ie. They're not on really social media. They weren't interested in social media. It was okay. I let them do the time belt, the water pump. They did tons of things to the car. So it's ended up costing about 1,500 quid to put it back on the road. But if I was to buy a different car and buy something second-hand, 1,500, 1,600, 2 grand, what would you have got? Like junk, really, I think. Anyway, Andy FX7, good afternoon all. Some stereotypes about bad press this week on major radio channels about car meets. We need to change this image. We certainly do. It's so easy to pile on to the old custom car meetups and things. And this is what happens. You get a journalist on the radio who isn't a car person and may have never been to a meet in their life. And they're talking to people who have been to one meet, or they've seen the results of a meet. So they've seen the skid marks on the road or something of a meet. And they immediately think that all meets are dangerous and everything's lethal and you have to control yourself. I was listening with Joe Duffy thing about wild camping during the week. It wasn't Joe Duffy on, it was a lady on, I don't know what her name was. They were talking about camper vans. And they were talking about how hazardous the camper vans are. So you can only imagine what they were saying about car meets, right? About how hazardous it is to have a car meet. You can't get all these people in the one place and doing burnouts and things. We are having a car meet on the 31st, and it will go fine. Like the last one went fine. They go fine when there's a bit of shape on them. If you engage, and I really do want to reach out to the Gardaí, to everybody else out there, if you just engage with the people who are organising all these things. This morning, Bray Cars and Coffee went off without a hitch, right? There was no burnouts, a bit of revving, a bit of noise, but as far as I know, there was no burnouts. I don't see anything on social media about it. There was other car meets last night and there was no problems as well. Ones down in Loughrea and all, they all went off without a hitch, no problem. You never hear about those. You only hear about the ones that go wild, and that's the ones like Salt Hill Sundays, which didn't actually go that wild, and the one up in Donegal, which always goes wild anyway. So it's same old stuff. Nobody really wants to do anything about it, you know. Kevin McCarthy says, do you know if the estate touring BMWs have a stiffer suspension around the saloons the same spec? Yes, they do. The estate one has different suspension on the back of it. It is not stiffer. They're heavier duty shock absorbers on the back of most of the estates or touring BMWs. Same as there's different shock absorbers on the back of the Avance of the Audis. We shot forward there. Hold on a second. Come back up. Edward out of here. Oh yeah, Sinclair. We did that one already. We're already there. Can I bring fake limo? Fake limo? No, because I don't think there is. As far as I know, I've seen that thing come up a few times, Eddie, and people are constantly saying it hasn't been NCT'd in 3 or 4 years. It hasn't. Nothing. If you don't have a full windscreen coming to the car meet on that night, unless you're bringing it on a trailer, I don't want to see it. I'll be dead honest with you, because there's going to be patrols everywhere, and I absolutely guarantee that if a car gets seized on that night, it will make frontline newspaper headline stuff, because it'll be released by the Gardaí. they'll put it out on their social media, say we've seized such and such a car, this car, that car. So unless it's completely legal, I don't bring it. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. Don't need the bad press about it. Fiona Walsh, hello, can you help us? Oh, okay, we try. We picked up a 2-on-2 Hyundai Kona electric last Friday. Weren't they all recalled? However, when I got home, I realised it was actually the petrol one. You were for real? Hold on, okay, let's go back a bit. So there are 3 Konas, if memory serves. There is a full electric Hyundai Kona. There is a hybrid Hyundai Kona. That might be a plug-in hybrid. And then there's an ordinary petrol one. So one just is a petrol engine on it. The price difference is gargantuan. The price difference is huge between them. So if you've bought the petrol one, but you paid the price of electric one, there's something really gone wrong there between the two of them. That would just be returned to your dealership, obviously, to make it clear. But it depends on what you paid for it. Obviously, you'd know from your orders. You should check that out, Fiona Walsh. Kenneth Fitzpatrick, what do you think of Porsche's new synthetic fuel Siemens involved? Yes, this is going to go on and on. This little thing is going to... I think that fuel, petrol, diesel and things will actually hang around for a hell of a long time. And I think about halfway through, when we get to about 50% of the market being full electric, I think the argument ends. I think people will stop going on about how good or bad electric is versus petrol and diesel. And I think what we're going to be left with is about 50% of the market being petrol or diesel, probably mostly petrol, hybrid, PHEVs, and then the rest of being full electric. And I think that was what much more reasonable thing to happen by 2030, which is when they want to stop making petrol and diesel cars. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not sure Saudi Arabia and the rest of them are actually going to let that happen. There's still massive investment in petrol, diesel, oil exploration, oil use. Everything inside a car is still made from some sort of an oil product. Oil products make plastics, so we're still going to be looking at plastic for a long time to come. If Porsche is doing a synthetic fuel, it means Volkswagen Group is doing synthetic fuel, because it's the group. I know Porsche are the ones that are leading it, but realistically that trickles through the biggest group. Well, at second biggest now, maybe, or near biggest group in the world is Volkswagen Group. If you look across that, because that also involves Scania trucks, which could be another synthetic diesel, you know. Keith, really well, big man. Have you seen the new Hyundai i5? Looks unreal. It does, yeah, it does. I quite like what Kia and Hyundai Group are doing at the moment in regards of the design of the cars, because obviously their managing director is the chief designer, ex-Volkswagen dude. So you'll see what happens then after that, but we'll see as they push forward what they're going to continue to bring out. Can they continue to do that? Will anyone catch them at some point? Because what I put in my title of this was NIO and XPeng, which is 2 Chinese companies that are building pure electric cars and bringing them to Europe. This is a big deal, and I really do mean that, because, and I'll get onto that singular speech which will get you working anywhere, right? We all know an Apple phone, right? I have a couple of them, but you know what a Xiaomi phone is as well, right? You've heard of that too, right? So you've heard of the Chinese phones, but you know Siemens make phones, you know that Samsung make phones, you know that all these other ones, all these other phone companies are in there too. But you look at when you go into a used phone place, you see the Apple ones are on a shelf over here, but then there's this clatter of non-contract, cheap mobile phones that have good color screens, great cameras, 6-7 cameras in the back and the whole lot, right? That's Chinese. That's how Chinese markets work. What they do is they flood the market. They put all of their everything. They make millions of products and push them all into the European market, and they flood the market with the products. And the only reason they didn't kill off Apple is because Apple don't release their iOS to other companies. So only Apple iOS can go on an Apple device, and only Apple devices can run the iOS. So Apple are, even though they put Samsung products in all of their stuff, it's still Apple. It's still restrict the amount of software. But Google don't do that. Android products don't do that. They just give out the software, you do what you want with it. So this is where I feel NIO, XPeng, and all these other Chinese companies, you're going to hear brilliance and everything later on this year. Volvo is going to come back as an electric car company. I said that for the last 4 years. I've said that, and people don't believe me, but they've been bought out now, and it's coming. Okay, it's definitely coming. So if that's the way we're headed right now, where does the information get stored? Because when you talk to Ford about their connected system, or Volkswagen about their connected system, their servers are in Europe. Their servers are here in this locality. We know what's going on. But NIO, XPeng, their servers are in China. Where does your information go? Those connected car information things, where are they going to store all that? Who's going to look after it? Just wondering. The same applies for Hyundai and Kia in Korea, right? SsangYong, Korean. They're Korean too. Where's all that information go? Fiona Watts says we paid 40k for electric Kona but got a 25k petrol Kona. We ran a dealer on Saturday and the manager said the SIMI contract that we signed was the petrol Kona. We paid 40k. The dealer is standing by the SIMI contract even though we paid 15k over the RRP petrol Kona. Is this an official Hyundai dealer? Your only weather app is Windy. Or Windy's good as well for Stuart. In fairness to you, Howie Stuart, just didn't see you there. Windy's very good for looking at the wind conditions, right? Yeah. Do we continue driving the petrol Kona? I have no other car. That sounds insane, Fiona. DM me on Instagram, will you? And tell me who the dealership is and stuff. Is it an official dealer or what the hell's happening? Because that's essentially, they've billed you for a car. The car is not the car that was promised, and then to be something, you'd have to have some comeback on that, depending on how you did it, obviously. Keith Colton's here as well. Come on, Bob. FI Rallycross on in Mondello next weekend for those interested in a bit of local motorsport. Looks like spectators allowed. Are spectators allowed, Keith? If spectators allowed, I might tip along to that first, because I know they frown very... We're still not at that 5,000 mark. You know, the one that happens in August for 5,000 spectators at something. Yeah, Stuart makes a good point there, Fiona. Did you even try the petrol version away? The docs signed will determine who's in the right. True, yeah. Whatever you signed up for. Obviously, it doesn't make a lot of sense that you paid the price for an electric car and you've ended up with a petrol car. It's a very difficult one. Stuart McHugh says, seeing a lot of 212 diesel Cupra fermenter, or sorry, no, D Cupra fermenter, Bob, seem to have found a sweet spot, mean looking crossover without massive engine. Tis, looks super. In my opinion, it looks a little bit childish. Just a tinchy bit. Okay, there's a little element of Transformers about the whole thing for me. But I think as a younger generation out there, Cooper will find its way. And I think that's a good thing because Cooper is actually pretty good. You would have to get Cooper as an option for yourself. Like, look at Cooper, because there is a great brand behind that mark. All the Coopers I've driven so far is pretty good. I actually have the Cooper Fermenter Hybrid next week, so I'm kind of looking at that. I take it as Consumer Protection Agency, that crowd you're talking about. Yeah, you'd have to talk to consumer. It's very weird, Fiona. I have to say that's disconcerting that anyone would be in a position to pay the price of the electric car and then be given a petrol version of it to drive away in. That doesn't make any sense, obviously, because a completely different, not just price, but a totally different car. Underneath, they're completely different jokes. It's pretty difficult to figure out what to do next. You could, as I'm told here, go to the Consumer Protection Agency. You could do that as well. You could also write to the SIMI about the whole treatment, because it doesn't make any sense. Fiona says the dealer principal said that he would buy back the petrol Kona for 21k provided we don't do over 150 kilometres, and he'll upgrade us the electric Kona for 16k. We already paid 40k. That doesn't make any sense. How can you pay 40? You can't be charged more for the same product. Something has gone wrong here in communication. I don't believe dealers would set out to rip you off like this. There's some sort of a paperwork error after happening here, that someone thinks they're right and other person thinks they're wrong. But I'm surprised that the petrol one, obviously getting into a car and it's petrol, you started with a key and then you put it into first to drive it off. I think the petrol Konas are manual as well. So, like, obviously electric cars are automatics. So there has been a breakdown in communication here somewhere, but definitely we can sort this out for you. DM me on Instagram and I'll try and bring you through as much as I can with it. Where are we now? Come on, if you want to hit star. I've signed into the late book. Sorry. Oh, are you 10 minutes late? It's fine. It's okay. You just let me know what you're late for. Where were you? Love, sex, I suppose, can make you late if you really want to, but love is definitely it. Anything motor related is always a good excuse. We're set to lose. You won't lose 30k, that's for sure. Invite Neil Briscoe on the 31st. Oh yeah, of course. On the 31st, yeah, Neil. Is he not coming down? No. Well, it's public, like, it's all over the place on the 31st. So 31st July, don't forget the 31st July. There is tickets available on Eventbrite if you want to get special parking for your car. It's always good. That's a good question as well. Actually asked on direct message here, Fiona, did you get your grant for the car? You're entitled to a grant from the from the car. When buying an electric car, you get a grant and £5 rebate on VRT for buying an electric car. Did you get the grant? Because if you didn't get the grant, then obviously there was a paperwork error here somewhere. Yes, invite anybody who wants to come along on the 31st. It's a big car park. I think we could probably hold about 1,000 cars, I reckon, if we parked them all in certain ways. And there's a special car park out to one side if people don't want to park with the normal people. With the normal people at the back, you know, the ordinary people, the normals. Anyway, because it is open, it's Junction 14, so it's open and running as it is normally. Now, there is another couple of events on Junction 14 over the next couple of weeks, and one here in Portlaoise as well. So next, the 11th of July at 10 a.m, there's a Cars and Coffee in Junction 14. I'll be at that myself. And then on the 18th of July, there is a Cars and Coffee here in Portlaoise Plaza, and that's going to have trucks and things at it too, so it'll be a little bit different at that one. So that'd be a good laugh actually go along to. So I'll be at that one definitely, because like it's not far away. I could run. I actually met Chaddy Common in Junction 14 on a run one day as well. It's been good crack actually up there in Junction 14 and in Portlaoise Plaza. They're unrelated companies. They know each other obviously, but they're unrelated companies. But we've ended up having to deal with either side of the two. It's been really good fun to have them that far down along the way. Midway, many attempted meets in Portlaoise Plaza. They're not that interested in Portlaoise Plaza as a meeting area, but we are being allowed to have a Cars and Coffee there. So that one will be packed out with trucks, jeeps, vans, cars, just modified stuff as well. So they'll all be there. Daza says, Bob, is E10 fuel coming to Ireland like the UK as well? I don't know. You know, that's entirely up to revenue more than anyone, if I'm honest with you, because revenue will have an element of what's going to happen when it comes to fuel, because it's the revenue that pulls in the revenue from it. E10 fuel was released in the UK. Some people complained about it, some people don't seem to. They seem to have just gotten on with it, which is usually what happens in the UK with most things. Actually, just kind of get on with things and stop complaining about it. We complain about everything. I'd like to see more options at the fuel pumps. We do not really have any options in Ireland. We have 95 RON essentially everywhere when it comes to petrol. Then we just have straight diesel, and we're not really told what's in the diesel when we get it. So I'd like to see more choice. I'd like to see more fuels. And like Dacia just brought out the little LPG connections on their cars, and I drove the Sandero Stepway, which is huge value for the cars in Dundee. We did a video with Dundee, it'll be out soon. Huge value for a 2-fuel car. Essentially, you can go to your LPG station and fill up and run on that. It's about 80 cents a litre. Like, it's very cheap. It's about nearly half the price of petrol to run LPG. So it's totally possible to do that as well, which would also be nice. So watch what Dacia is doing, because for replacement for diesel, a thing called CNG, which I've been doing in Europe for a long time. I've been at loads of launches 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, it feels like, since launches. But CNG is always mentioned in Europe, not really mentioned here that much. Hold on a second, still standing by. Cash up now. Opinion on hydrogen trucks. Hydrogen trucks is where things need to go, if I'm honest with you. Hydrogen is something that's been overlooked, and then we fell out of love, then we fell into love with it, and then it becomes a problem. So hydrogen is something we really should be paying attention to for large-scale buses, trucks, large-scale long-distance transport, because trucks go from depots. They tend to go out of a big depot to go to another depot. That's usually what happens. So it's easy to put in an infrastructure for trucks, because you're just putting a fuel station on either end of the journey. Whereas with cars, you need hydrogen scattered everywhere for cars. Hydrogen is not very efficient, but in comparison to diesel, it's a lot cheaper, or could be made to be a lot cheaper. So it's possible to make hydrogen with investment. We need to make hydrogen a standard fuel for pretty much everything, because it is a direct replacement. You could use it all along. So hydrogen for long distance trucks would be a great idea. Whether it's actually feasible or not, we'll have to see when it comes to buses, because we're getting a hydrogen filling station on the island of Ireland, but it'll be in Belfast. For the trucks, or for the buses up there, they're deciding to run their buses on hydrogen, whereas Dublin Bus decided to buy an extra 8 or 10 or 15 or something diesel buses, but they call them hybrids buses, but they're not really the long distance ones. They're hybrid up until about 18 kilometers an hour, then they're not hybrid no more. So very short-sighted, I think. Hydrogen would be really good. Battery buses are still a bit short range for most things, although they are running quite regularly. It just depends on the city. Obviously, Dublin City, being so small, could easily have electric buses and hydrogen buses and whatever buses they want, because it's a very tiny city centre. If you think about walking even from Stephen's Green to Henry Street, it's a walk, it's a stroll. That's the whole city centre done. It's just a stroll across. It's really not that big of a city centre. Then if you look at somewhere like Cork, easy place as well to get around, very simple little traffic layout. Galway's very complicated traffic layout, and that's a bit of a problem with that one. But for hydrogen trucks, I think hydrogen trucks would be a great idea. Any of that sort of stuff is really good, but we're losing interest in hydrogen. Even Toyota is starting to go electric now instead of doing that. They were going hydrogen a lot of the way. Kevin says, I got to say, Leon Hybrid got 2,000 kilometers before I had to refill. Just have to say what a fantastic car. Highly recommend it. Yeah, you'd be surprised. Driven properly, PHEVs and hybrids can actually go a very long way compared to their standard diesel or petrol version of the car, if they're driven properly. The only problem with all cars, this isn't just electric cars, but all cars, is once they hit a motorway, boom, you're in trouble straight away. It's the resistance of power versus wind, and you're constant at acceleration because you're always fighting the aerodynamics of the ground in front of you. So as an electric car goes, they struggle on motorways, but so does petrol cars. My Seat Leon struggled on motorways its whole life. The minute it goes out on the motorway, it starts to eat fuels. But that's the nature of those kind of old cars. So, but if you drive around city a lot, or you drive in very low speed areas, or your commute is quite short, you could do exactly the same thing here as, who said that to me now? Kevin said the same thing here. He was able to drive for 2,000 kilometers before he had to refill his fuel tank because he's running mostly electric. Daza says 1 pp down after 100 kilometers. I don't know what that is. Stuart McHugh, I just had playing in the shower, Bob, and the phone dropped into the water tank off waterproof iPhones. I know it's gas. I'm still really nervous. I know that this is totally waterproof. According to Apple, they say it is totally waterproof, but I'm still really nervous getting them right. But it's a chunky phone. It's the iPhone 12 Max Pro Max. It's a great camera, but it's chunky. It weighs a ton. I need it because my eyesight's getting really bad, and the little screens on normal phones was just too small for me. It started annoying me after a bit. So I changed over to the iPhone. I have to say, if you're not an Apple user, I have only had to call Apple customer services, not call them, but chat online, 3 times in my iPhone life, and every time they have sorted it all out for me professionally. Brilliant. You talk to a human and they sort the whole thing out for you in the end. It's great. So I'd always recommend Apple over Android. I've had loads of Android phones. I still have Android phones, and most of them are broken, and there's nowhere to get through to anybody. Stephen Bailey says, new Tucson hybrid is brilliant. To a top price, reaches £40,000 in the UK. Bloody hell, £40,000. Why? That seems really expensive. Fiona Walsh says, the dealer is an official dealer in Dublin, standing by the SIMI dealer we signed, but Aldi says it's a petrol with an invoice price of 40k. Have we been totally ripped off? There's finance on the car. We'd have to go through the actual details of it. We'll have to go through the details that one by one. On the handover, the salesman said they were very quiet cars. We replied, yes, it's our first electric car, and the salesman looked at us and sniggered. Apparently the dealer said before he picked up the car that they would handle the grant. It's an automatic petrol Kona, not the electric Kona. We're not stupid people. That is crazy. That is crazy. It sounds really risky, if I'm honest with you, but this is totally solvable. There's obviously a misfire here has happened somewhere in the communications, and there's just a breakdown throughout. We can figure it out. We'll figure it out for you, and we'll get you satisfaction somewhere or another. We'll just phone the dealer and ask the questions. Stuart says, wouldn't trust XPeng as far as I could throw them. Literally a photocopy job of Tesla. Shameful. That's what they're all at, though. That's what Chinese companies do. They come in, they copy, they paste, they make the car, they put it out, and then they flood the market. They flood it so much that you just get used to the name, like Xiaomi, like all these other brands of mobile phones that come out as well. You get used to saying a name, you can't pronounce it at first, and after a while you get the hang of it, and then suddenly they're everywhere and you can't get rid of them. That's what MG is doing. Look at MG pushing into the market now. That's a Chinese company. I know it's MG with a UK brand name on it, but you watch as Saab comes out or other brand names come out with lots of Chinese names attached to them, and nobody cares. Stephen Bailey says, found one Tucson at £29,995 X Demo 2021 hybrid. It's great saving. Best always keep sourcing for X Dems. Why overspend? Mileage is usually low. Anything he's doing, like a call sort. That's what happens. Most of our cars here are ex demos from the UK, the ones that we get in the second-hand stuff. If they're not, they're ex fleet cars of some sort. Most of the time, you'll find the fleet cars are actually pretty good at holding their value because they get serviced on time, on schedule, in main dealers and all that sort. They get all the boxes ticked along the way as well. So Stephen's dead right there. Look out for cars that are ex demo. Who buys new cars? Although I did get a press release recently from the SIMI, which was very interesting. Hold on a second. I got emails there a second ago again. I sold so many things, and I get an email for every sale. Thank you very much for all the buying and all that stuff. You're very good, but it's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of emails to get through. I can't find it now. It'll come back to you in a minute. But Teresa Noon was there she is, was sending out the industry optimistic for registration plates. So this year we've had 2,767 new cars registration for the month of June compared to 1,006 in 2020. Now that's not a comparable stat. If you think of June, we were on massive lockdown last year. Most dealerships were closed. We were doing deliveries kind of online more than anything. 63,867 new cars registered a year today compared to 52,885 for the same period in 2020. That's an increase of 20%, 20.8%, and 20.9%. So they say the SIMI are very, well, they're trying to be optimistic. What I'm listening to from dealerships, there are always, as usual, dealers in the chat, but I would say there is a bit of an effort going on right now to recoup some of the costs coming back from the new cars, but actually new car sales are well down compared to used car sales, which are really high at the moment. I know used cars right now, very low stock. I also know that some dealerships out there are buying them directly from Done Deal, adverts, anywhere they can get a hand on them, because they're going from having 700 or 800 cars in stock down to 400 cars in stock, just because they can't get stocks of them. It's very hard to deal with Brexit, the movement of vehicles coming out of the UK into Northern Ireland, bringing them down here, all that stuff that's going on in the background. Then there's a 10% charge on the back of that as well, driving prices up. It's pretty hard going at the moment to try and get hold of used cars for sale, and so keep an eye on the market, because as the market dips and dives, we'll see that new cars will either fall off because deliveries are very slow, we're missing some chips, or new cars will start to pick up again, which would be nice as well, you know. What does the order form contract say? Electric or petrol? Yeah, that's true. Apparently there's a Dilbert says, have a Kia Exceed for 2 weeks, lads. They're absolutely atrocious to drive, jittery and lumpy with zero feel to the driver. Not a snob, by far the worst car I've driven. Well, that's the Exceed. Well, it depends what suspension. Obviously the setups can be different from each one. It depends what you're kind of used to, newer, older cars, where you come from. I didn't think the Exceed was all that bad. My neighbours after buying one, a plug-in hybrid version, got a charge point put in and stuff. And so very happy with it. Some people are really happy with that, but it depends what you're coming out of, what you're going into. I think she came out of an Astra. Stuart McHugh says 2021 Tucson looks a bit busy to me. Yeah, busy. I think the whole front of it looks there's a lot going on the car. A lot of angles. Like, look at the side profile of it. A lot of these drop shadow angle things. I think it'll wear badly. I think it'll age. The image killed by the Gardaí driving around, side panels are visually challenged. Yeah, the whole car is challenging, visually, to me, challenging. And of course, you know, if you buy a white one, you're just going to look like a card everywhere you go. Fiona traded in a Ford Fusion, right, from 2004. So if you haven't driven something, if you're coming from a 2004 to a 2021 car, it's a bit of a change to everything that's going on at the moment. But Fiona Walsh, like I say, get in touch with me on Instagram. We'll go through it with you, see what you got there. I think the MPG out of LPG is half that of petrol diesel. It does run a bit richer. Yeah, you don't get as many miles out, but it is very reasonably priced, I have to say. Hang on a second, still getting text messages from everybody now. She's been checked up on. It sounds the same to me as well, Eric. You're dead right. It does sound very familiar, all right. Hi Bob, is there talk of Chinese cars being sold in Norway using battery swap rather than recharging by owners? That is what we're talking about with NIO. So NIO, behind NIO is not just a car. They're talking about doing a battery swap technology, which essentially means that they're going to, this is where I fall apart when EV people go on about how good this idea is, and I dismay at this idea, because the idea of getting a stack of batteries and keeping them charged 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just in case you need one in a moment, just doesn't make any sense. Environmentally, it's a waste of resources to make all these spare batteries that we don't need. It's also a really, really poor, where does that electricity come from to keep them all charged? And then just a logistical point of that is, if you buy a brand new, I don't know, Neo, Tesla, whatever one it is you're after buying, and you run out of charge one day on your way down to Cork, and you slip into a little place and they swap out your battery to give you a battery that's 2 years old. What happens then? How much have you just devalued your car by? What's going what have you done? Like, think about that for a minute. The rationale behind it doesn't make a lot of sense. So I would be really cautious on saying that this Neo solves a problem. I think it solves a problem, but only a problem that didn't really exist. The idea that we can charge cars very quickly these days, which we can. Junction 14 has 350 or 250 kilowatt chargers over there. There's 150 kilowatt chargers here in Portlaoise. We have 3 fast chargers in the town. And I think now we're getting a 4th one with Lidl. And there's also multiple places to charge your car on slower chargers. So we even have now in Lee's Shopping Centre now has 22 kilowatt chargers on the wall. So there is plenty of opportunity to charge your car that you don't need to get to the point of swapping your battery out. Swapping your battery is an environmental disaster, a dead end really. We can't even make enough batteries now for the cars we want to sell, let alone have a room full of spare batteries hanging about the place. That doesn't make any sense, that are always on a charge. That's just really bad. I don't think that's the solution. Environmentally, I don't think that's the solution at all. I think it's a really short dead end. And we're looking for a way to make these things quicker and faster, when in actual fact we don't really need to make them any faster. They're fast enough already. Column Tracy, any thoughts on 2106? Looking into the future there by about 100 years. Anyway, Mercedes-Benz B Class versus 2 Series Active Tourer. Same mileage, similar engine size. What would you go for reliability, driving experience? Both the same, to be honest with you. 2 Series Active Tourer is a front-wheel drive BMW. And it's actually a very sensible car inside. I love the layout of the car and the slidey seats and all the things the seats can do in the back. And then you won't really notice the front wheel drive until you're taking off from a junction and the traction control comes on. It's the only time we know it's front wheel drive. It drives pretty well. Very, very practical. B Class is a little bit bigger, a little bit rarer, and I would suggest probably going to be more reliable. Mercedes is surprisingly reliable on reliability charts. So have a look at that one. But I would look at the B Class. I'd look at both of them, decide which one I want. But the B Class for me would be the one I'd probably pick out of the two, even though BMW makes some really good cars. That 2 Series Active Tourer is probably their least favourite, but I quite like that as a family car. It's great. Keith BHP says, got a 181 530E on the 15th of May and filled it and refilled it on Friday. Class with a kid. I like it. I still remember going along to the Mitsubishi had a launch of the PHEV yoke. You know what's that called? Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV, and we went to France for this launch, myself and John, and the guy said that he explained to us that the petrol engine might never need to start in this car, that it would have to start every 6 months just to make sure that the petrol engine would still work, so it would auto start every 6 months. And I was sitting there thinking, if I left the petrol engine car alone for 6 months, it would seize. Like, if you didn't start it at all, it would seize up. And I thought 6 months seemed like an awful long time. But I suppose that's why PHEVs are starting to go now, in that if you plug it in often enough and do short enough mileage, you'll be fine after that. But I love the idea of that backup. You know what I mean? That backup sort of thing is pretty cool. Being able to go a little bit further on pure petrol alone. Thank you all for joining in, by the way, and sharing the live. You're very good to share the live. There's 144 of you here now. If you wouldn't mind sharing the live again, it'd be great. I might share the live myself, actually, while I'm at it. Because, I can do that too. There is a share button on my screen. So I can share it out to Twitter. I always forget about TikTok on a day like today. I never think of actually asking the lads. But TikTok is such a different platform from every other platform out there. Because you can't do what I do here. You can't just share one thing. It goes up and then people watch it hours later, Graham Cullen says, shot forward there again. Graham Cullen, Mazda 2 GT Sport, I can get close to 800 kilometers. I think it's due to having 6 gears rather than 5 gears my old Jazz had. It is true. I always find 6-speed gearbox in all of the press cars have been exactly the same thing. They are consistently able to go a lot further using 6 gears rather than 5, because at 5 the rev is so high and then the car has to work so hard to keep it pushing, and then once it stops pushing, then you're in trouble after that. I see Fiona Walsh was a kind of a troll. It sounded a little bit unbelievable, but that's what I kept saying about Instagram, because then they have to give you their real name. YouTube is full of trolls as well. It creates so many different accounts. But yeah, your Mazda 2 will do much better fuel economy on a 6-speed box than on a 5-speed box, and that's pretty much the same as everybody, because the gearbox doesn't weigh any more, much more, having 6 gear in it versus the 5. Monovision. In DK EV city buses about to break through. Until last year, it was predicted to be behind 2025 before they match running diesels. But Tesla cities already now EV buses proven comparable. That's what I'm talking about. So we're starting to get to a point where batteries are starting to get clever. That we're starting to get good with software, good with hardware. The batteries can go a little bit further, not using any more technology. We're starting to move towards solid state batteries as well. Is starting to come along, but it's not quite there yet for bus levels of stuff. Remember, you can, and we've always had electric trams and electric buses using the overhead gantry things. So we've had that since, well, the beginning of time, really. The beginning of public transport had overhead lines, like think of San Francisco and all. Most of those things started out to be electric because it was much more clever to run things electrically. And we've even had the Dart here in Ireland, which is a fully electric tram train thing that's running along the east coast there for years and years and years, and that's always been electric. No battery, not a pro for hydrogen. That's the big thing with hydrogen. It is a combustible fuel. You can have hydrogen fuel cells, which essentially is a petrol tank. So you put your hydrogen in the cell and it runs on an engine. Is kind of normal. It's hard to explain. It's not quite an engine. It runs on a motor running electric. You're still running electric motors, but you're running them from a different fuel, and you don't need to worry about batteries. But you can use other systems, was to put in hydrogen that would charge a hydrogen fuel cell that would charge a battery to run the car as well, is also possible. Steve McCormick says, unless EV batteries are down about €50 a pop, the battery swapping is nonsense. That's what I mean. I can't imagine that battery swapping thing really becoming a big thing for years. And I really do mean a long time before that actually happens. I would say we'll probably flip again between now and then before that battery swap thing comes in, because battery swapping is such a massive draw on the limited resources we already have for electric cars, building electric cars, future electric cars, having these reserve batteries just hanging about the place. And this isn't just one place. This wouldn't be a central depot that you would go to like somewhere in the Midlands. This is going to be multiple depots across the country that will have multiple batteries sitting in them, all sitting there doing nothing, as no one wants to swap batteries. Because you'd probably have to pay a rent. Even look at the monetary value of doing this. You would probably have to pay some sort of rent or a fee, monthly fee, to be able to use this service. You couldn't just buy a whole new battery for your car and drive away in it. It's going to be a rental thing. So how much are you willing to pay for the chance that you might need one of these spare batteries hanging out the place? And why wouldn't you just buy a spare battery and put it in your house at home and just have it there and swap it out yourself? If it's that easy, if you can just drive into a garage and have it swapped in 2 minutes flat, surely you can do that at home as well. Monovision says, in my city, Aarhus, more and more lines go full electric next 2 years. The bus company said they don't expect to put new diesel into the fleet. Currently we have 3 routes with mainly EVs. That's what we need. That's essentially, when public transport is properly funded, they will start to do more electric stuff. That's what we really need. We need to stop making decisions for the next 2 years and start making decisions for the next 10 years, because the governments we have right now just seem to be crashing through every election to go, we're elected now, we're going to do this, and to do that for 2 years, then it's gone. They don't seem to be able to do anything else. It doesn't seem to make any sense, for me anyway, that they keep on doing this sort of stuff. It's okay. Thank you, Eric Rochford, who very rarely has to take action, but when he does, it's decisive and he's good. Mark Ryan, hi Bob, I've owned a 2005 Renault Scenic and it needs a clutch and timing belt done. Would be worth getting Nissan Qashqai instead? essentially the same car. I mean, Renault Nissan Alliance, the chassis and things underneath those two cars are basically the same. The clutch would be the problem. The timing belts need doing anyway. Timing belts aren't necessarily that expensive. Timing belt and water pump can be all done fairly rapidly. They're not terribly expensive, but clutches can be very expensive. What are you going to get into? Like, how much do you want to spend to go from 2005, which no one wants your car now, right? So 2005 is an old car. It needs a clutch and needs a timing belt. So no, who's going to buy that? Only a mechanic who might be able to do that themselves. And you're moving into a Nissan Qashqai. So how far forward are you going to come forward? 2010, 2011, 2012. Then you're moving into the new tax bands. Nissan Qashqai is a good car, for sure. They don't have a great reliability history for all the things working. The engines do. The 1.5 DCI is an incredible engine. Never give any trouble. But I'm not sure about the reliability. Everything else in the Nissan Qashqai seems to give trouble, but I think that's more the fact of just how many Nissan Qashqais there are on the road. There are bleeding hundreds of them. Like, everywhere you go, you will see a Nissan Qashqai. Good car though. Coming from a Scenic to a Qashqai, you're not going to, it's a good old move, yeah, for sure. You'll find the doors a lot smaller. Hydrogen cars are battery cars. You don't produce hydrogen on board. Hydrogen fuels batteries which run the electric motors. There you go. That's hydrogen. Mick Daly, what are you hoping to get for Christmas this year, Bob? Just retirement policy would be nice, Mick, if I'm honest. We could just retire out of this job entirely and sit back and relax for a while. Keith Cole says, NIO have battery swap stations in operation in China. Small battery and standard as temporary upgrade for large amounts for long trips. I don't think that you own the battery. Yeah, there's the problem though. Environmentally, I just don't see why we need to think about that. It's just hard to sit back and go, this is another solution we need to look at. Instead of what should be happening right now, which is just continue the investment that is happening in the electric car market until you get it to a point where people are getting very used to it. Once we're all used to the electric cars, which I got used to it over the last few months because I've had nearly nothing but electric cars since January, since the car company started swapping cars again. And plus I had that MG ZS here for a while. I could see the fundamental flaws in electric cars. There is fundamental, just from the beginning, things you have to get used to. It's a different language. It's different all along. The first cars in the world were electric. If we really wanted electric cars, we would have had electric cars by now in large quantities, if it was really a thing. I think there's a large voice of people out there who are trying to get into electric cars and they're happy to change into whatever car they want. But if you drive enough of them for a while, you realise that only the very small end, top end of the market actually drives very well. The rest of the market struggles with the handling and the suspension and the seating, and it struggles because they're trying to find their way into the market. Tesla struggles with build quality. Everybody has a flaw somewhere along the way, and I think that's going to be a problem for electric cars going into the future because the investment has to go side by side. So Volkswagen, who is now going electric almost entirely, but has a gargantuan fleet of cars that are already out there that are not electric. Everything going back to the dawn of Volkswagen, right, is not electric. So there's this massive support structure has to go in for those, as well as now supporting all these new batteries and new cars that are going into the market. Dilbert says, sent you an Insta about the Celsior we bought in Japan. Unsure if you got it, but she's yours for review if you want it. She's got a couch on wheels. When you sell that, I have a check now. Let's see what's on my Instagram. Hold on. But also, we were talking as well today about older cars. I don't think I got that. Check that again for me, will you? Send that again. I don't see it there, yeah. But James, who can't comment here, says on the Sun Services, what's your opinion seen about keeping older cars today? To sell a 1.4 petrol 2007 Ford Focus for a Toyota CHR 1.2 turbo petrol, what's your opinion? Focus is going perfectly. See, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't. I'd hold on to it. I have a 2006 Seat Leon 1.6 litre petrol, and it runs fine. Like it's perfect. It's going to pass another NCT, no problem. And I have to get NCT yearly. It's expensive to hold on to the older cars. But the upgrade path for me from 2006 to anything into 2010, 12, 13 is going to cost far more than the car costs per year to run. Just, it's done all it's finished devaluing. It's not going to devalue any more than it already has. So what's the point? It's just going to leave it alone. Oh yeah, I see your car now. Wow, that is so luxury in a Japanese way. It's like it's a Toyota, but it's that Toyota. So it's called a Celsior, whatever it's called. But it's a, they're basically Lexus, the big Lexus GS 300, 500, 600, something like that. I'll be in touch with it for sure. Just got that now. I'll keep that there. We'll have a spin of it. It'd be good crack actually to drive that around place. Dilbert. Opinion on a Golf Mark 5 for first car. Killian, Mark 5 Golf is a great car, but it is aged. Right, there's a Mark 5, then there's Mark 6, Mark 7, Mark 7.5, Mark 8. So right, there's a group of cars between those that are pretty good. But Mark 5s are pretty good. You will be nailed by an insurance company on a German car because they do it every time. Any of those Golfs, Polos, Passats. Volkswagen is a really popular car for young drivers. And so it's involved in more collisions than Japanese cars. Not big collisions, just normal yokes. And so they're kind of loaded on insurance. So it's a great car, but it's a Golf and it's going to be hurt you on insurance. But they're lovely out to drive. Easy to fix as well, and fairly easy to work on. Keith Coulton. But if you need to compress the hydrogen, it's a ridiculous pressure. 700 bar to store, plus way less efficient to generate than going straight to BEV. That's what I would say as well. But you see, I have this thing about people being lazy, right? My theory in life is that every human being on earth is actually intrinsically terribly lazy. And if we had a chance, we'd lie on a couch all day scratching our nuts, looking at the wall. That's what we do all day. If we could just turn our brains off a little bit. Our brains aren't bored. So if people are really lazy, they just want to replace what they've got with something else as like it. Which is why petrol and diesel continue to sell as cars out there the whole time. Because they've already got a diesel. I like diesel. I know where I am at a diesel. I don't want to put the thing in. And they know how to do it. So they don't want to change it. So hydrogen to them is a good solution. Because it, as James May explained way back, as I seen the episode the other day, in the FCX Clarity or something it was called, he said the same thing. He said it's just a direct replacement, just pushing in a tube into the side of your car, and in a couple of minutes it's full of hydrogen again. But they're not very efficient. But if that's the solution, if you're used to doing that with petrol and you go to hydrogen, you'll never know the difference. You won't care. And if hydrogen is cheaper to run, it's cheaper to buy, people will buy it. Hence why LPG is coming back, or starting to come back on the market as well. So there's an awful lot of moving about which fuel we're going to use. But BEV is so efficient. When you start looking at its efficiencies and how clever it can be and how cheap we can do it, but on the flip side of that, expect prices to start to rise when it comes to electric stuff. I really do think that the government must have something up its sleeve somewhere, because there is such an amount of money that is generated by petrol and diesel powered cars in taxes, particularly fuel. And when you move people off that, as is happening right now, the market is starting to shift to move to charge at home. When you move them off it, what's going to happen next? How do they recoup that money? Because there isn't one thing the Exchequer will do. If you ring the Exchequer, or you talk to the Exchequer, or send an email to them saying, I want to do this, they go, where does that money go to? How do you take that money out of the market and put it back somewhere else? So they're going to look for money somewhere. Daz is talking about Fiona's car. Fiona was a troll. I think we let Fiona stew there in her own juices for a while. I'm sure Fiona back at some point. There's been a few of them on the market at some point. Somebody puts an awful lot of effort into doing the trolling thing though. Matthew Dunn, we've had a 2015 Qashqai Topspec CVT 1.6 diesel. Is it worth upgrading now since the mileage is only 30k? Qashqai is popular in the highest order. Every time someone comes in, you will find Qashqai is always there. Even look at Kiri's Car Store or Kylemore Cars or any of those things, you'll see Qashqai is always sitting there on the list, because everybody goes from them. They've been popular for years and years and years. So yeah, be worth trading them in. If you're used to buying you've got a CVT box and that, automatic cars, there's a few more automatic cars on the market. They're still getting pretty hard to find though. They're very hard because they're very popular. Everybody wants that kind of things. But it is worth trading in at this point. Yeah, 2015, you're talking about a 7-year-old car. Martin Nolan. Hi Bob, I rented a Skoda Superb car from a large rental company. Before I picked it up, I looked around and noted damage and drove off. While driving, there was a bad smell, but I thought it was, why do I get the feeling this is going to go completely wrong as well? A large dead rat, it's biohazard. Right. There was a rat in Martin Nolan's boot. That sounds nearly as interesting as Fiona's story. Daza, Irish dealerships are fleecing the Irish public in used car prices. They are and they aren't. There's been an adjustment on prices. You see, the problem we have in this country, and I've touched on this a good few times before, is we could easily change the side of the road we drive on, right? Which would mean we could buy used cars from France or Spain or Germany or wherever, right? Ourselves in the UK, let's say the whole of the UK, including Ireland, are the only countries in Europe that drive on our side of the road. So we need special cars built. We need an allotment in Volkswagen headquarters or in Sunderland or wherever it is, a special allotment to make the cars right-hand drive, okay? Yeah, right-hand drive. I always get confused left and right. I'm not very good at this. But so we need a special allotment for that. Now, the problem with that is that they only allot that time at certain times of the year in every factory, like Spain, Barcelona, where they build all the Seats, and Volkswagen, where they build all their stuff up in Wolfsburg, and all these places where they build stuff. They allot a certain time to build right-hand drives, then the rest of them they build left-hand drives. But because we drive on the right, the only place we can get second-hand cars is the UK. Now, the UK has Brexited. They've left the EU, which means a whole new set of rules about getting cars out of the UK. It's a little easier to get them from Northern Ireland because we're still on the same island, so it's a bit easier to do it up there. But to get it directly from a used car market in Manchester is another 10% Brexit import duty. So we have VRT, then we have VAT charged on the VRT, then we have 10%, and then VAT charged on that 10%. So cars have gone up by all of that overnight. That's happening all the time. And nobody's really talking about it because the used car prices have just gone up to the roof. I keep harping on about VRT. I know it would hurt dealerships. I get it if we wiped it out in the morning, but it is now gotten to rip-off stage. It's just too expensive. Graham Cullen, it seems odd that we don't already have a lot more electric vehicles in public transport. In Edinburgh, we are spending hundreds of millions on trams. Pub quiz info, electric hair clippers are now 100 years old. That is correct. Electric hair clippers were created by a French guy. Originally, we did an awful lot of electric stuff. Electric cars were the first things ever. Thank you, Jan Berskom Skilvert, for the PayPal. Thank you very much. I hope I butchered your name there. I'm sure. That's the best I could do. Thank you for the PayPal. You're very kind. PayPal, Patreon, any of those. You can do it here by channel membership as well if you want to on this channel. Just go to bobflavin.com, buy something there, buy one of the stickers or buy whatever you want to do. There's loads of things. These little stickers are actually sold very well. These little OnlyFans stickers, they go all over the place. We'll make more funny stickers throughout the year, and I'll bring them along to some of the car shows stuff. You can buy them there too if you want to. But it is odd, Graham, that we don't have a lot more public transport electric vehicles. All our post vans in Portlaoise now are Renault electric. All of them, BEVs, every one of them. And I have to say, Renault, your cars are really noisy. What is it about electric cars? I can hear the postman coming much further away than when he used to drive a diesel yoke. It's very loud. Plus, I also had that experience of charging a Zoe here, and my kids could hear the scream from the car. It was whining. This whine noise was coming out. It was terrible. I couldn't hear it because I have tinnitus. And essentially it's at the level of my tinnitus that it just cancels itself out, so I can't really hear it. But my kids and my wife could hear it clearly, and it was driving them mental. So so they are kind of noisy, I have to say. But particularly those post vans which are going around town, they're really noisy. I can hear them a street away. It's kind of weird. I thought we were going to get quieter, like. But we certainly, in public transport, there's no reason why we can't have more electric stuff. There's plenty of it on the market. Volvo have been testing an electric truck here for years. I seen DPD the other day. I met him at Junction 14. He was charging his first electric delivery van and was given no instructions, so I had to show him how to do it. I had to show him how to plug it in and get the apps and everything on his phone. They needed to unlock stuff. But it was chaos for like 15-20 minutes. The guy wanted to get back on the road. Like, he wanted to get back on the road really quickly. So it was kind of weird. But it was a fun interaction with people, especially because they knew who it was as well. Brian Donald, hi Bob and Flavin Nights. Been a while. That's true, it has been a while, Brian. Question for you. I have an option to buy a Vauxhall Ampera. That's a good car. 142 reg. Get a local garage to service and be concerned about parts, wear and tear and electric. No problem with parts. All the Amperas that were ever built are still out there running away. They've been totally reliable. They were completely over-engineered. They were really expensive as well. if memory serves, that would have been imported into Ireland for about 150 grand for an Ampera. I think they have that are great. It's only a 4-seat car, but a great car. Lovely. I think the Chevy Bolt is what it is in America. Totally over-engineered and worth the money as well. Shouldn't have any problem with getting parts of them, because Vauxhall were supporting those cars for years, because they sold quite well in the UK. Didn't sell so well over here. So good car, yeah. Martin still contacted his... I'll tell you what I'll do. We'll just get rid of you, because I think you're absolutely full of crap. Same thing. Did Fiona Walsh do her say? No, Fiona Walsh is gone. She disappeared, and so did Martin Nolan there with his stuff. So we're after deleting him as well. This is obviously someone who's spending a lot of time on the internet, who has nothing better to do with time but troll stuff. But that's okay. They do come, they go after a while. They get bored because it's so easy to get rid of them these days. Patrick Ross says James Wayne just replaced his Toyota Mirai hydrogen car with a newer version of it. I thought he ran into problems trying to get that he wasn't saving any money by getting hydrogen in his local hydrogen station. That he went back to electric. Doesn't he have a Tesla as well? Model 3, I thought. Not just his Mirai car. I don't know for sure. I just seem to remember something about him having problems getting hydrogen. But it's like, we are in the biggest transition of fuels. Actually, the biggest transition of absolutely everything that's ever happened is happening right now. It's huge amount of changes, from fuels, from how we do stuff, how we transport ourselves around. Personal transport, whether you even own a car, is another part as well. That's the other part. Like, how are you going to own a car? Do you PCP it? Does that mean you own it? Because most PCPs are flipped into another PCP, so you don't really own the car ever. It's just a long-term loan. And the same for like car loans and stuff are dying out in banks. So we're changing not just our fuels, but we're changing how we own a car, how we store a car, whether we drive to work or not. We're starting to look at electric scooters, which I see a lot more electric scooters on the road now. They look like baby deers. You know when a baby deer goes to stand up and they're wobbly at the bottom half, the top half, but the bottom. That's what it looks like when you see somebody on these electric scooters. I have an electric scooter. I find them great, but some people just look terrified of them, and they're flying on the road at 30 kilometers an hour. It looks scary. It's funny to see, but we need legislation around those as well. I also need people to understand that they are a hazard. If you fall off them, it is going to hurt. Sean McGarren says, what's your opinion on remapping high mileage cars? No problem with remapping. So what's mapping a car? First of all, essentially, when you change the system, the electronic system that controls your car, is the mapping. Is how it revs, how far it goes, what it kind of responds to, how it gets from where it's going to where it's going. All that is done through programming of the system inside. So when you remap a car, you can remap it for fuel economy, you can remap it for more horsepower, because the car has been tested at different temperatures, different altitudes in different countries. So you're essentially remapping the car for different countries, what a lot of them do. And so remapping a car is actually a benefit to a car rather than a drawback. You can make a car much better to handle, or not handle, much better responsiveness from the engine, throttle positions, all that stuff can all be remapped out. And plus you can get better fuel economy. So it depends what you want from the car. Thoughts on Jeremy Clarkson? Jeremy Clarkson's cool. Did you not see his Clarkson's Farm, or Farm, is it called, something like that? Brilliant show. Brilliant show. Watched every single one of them in one go on Amazon Prime. It was a great show to watch. Completely out of his depth, and that was really good. I that's the part I enjoyed more than anything. Instead of talking to an expert about cars or trying to show you all the best things about cars, was like, I don't know how to do this. I bought a tractor. It's too big. It doesn't fit in the shed and all. So much stuff. It was good. But Clarkson is great. Clarkson is the one who made what I do possible. So everything I do on YouTube, car reviews, TikTok, all that stuff, they were at the beginning of that. They're the granddaddies of all those kind of reviews. And every review you see today, or everything you see on television today involving cars, has something to do with Top Gear over the years, or Top Gear did it. That's it. They've done it before, or they'll have to do it again. Even the current version of Top Gear with Chris Harris and all that in it is doing the same things as Top Gear did before them. They're just repeating the same stuff over and over again. Still three lads messing around with vehicles, doing stupid stuff, but it just doesn't work to the same level as the three that did before them. But then they got a chance to get together. Fiona had a sex gender change with Kim Martin. I think so, Mick. That's why I read that one as well. Nick, hi Bob. Would you pay the extra 6 or 7k to go with Lexus ES 300 or a Toyota Camry hybrid? I like Lexus. Lexus has always been really nice. I don't know why we don't actually buy more of them. They're a luxury brand, but they never feel like a luxury brand. They're right up there with BMW and all the rest of them, but they don't ever get to quite that level. I don't like either Toyotas or Lexus infotainment system. It's all a little bit clunky for me. But with the advent of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, this stuff goes away. You don't even notice it's there anymore because it's already involved. I would pay to have the Camry happily. But I don't know if I'd pay another $7,000 to go into a Lexus. I don't know if I could justify that jump from a Camry to a Lexus. I think it would be pretty much the same car. I don't think you're going to get much more of a benefit out of the ES 300, even though it's a lovely car. But I think about like $6,000 or $7,000 is a kitchen. Like, it's a new kitchen in your house. It's a bloody good holiday, for a full family thing. So it's $6,000 and $7,000 probably better in your pocket. Same engine underneath though, 2.5 litre hybrid engine. Patrick Walsh, May did have issues, but now he reckons there's a hydrogen station in South London. He's not a million miles from Hammersmith where he lives. Then it works. If you can get things to where you're going, I mean, if you can, obviously you can put the cart before the horse. If you're going to buy a hydrogen car, you need some place to fill it up as well. Always handy to have, But like electricity is everywhere. That's why electric is so good at what it does, because you can get it anywhere. Now, obviously, the speed of electricity is a whole different ballgame. That's a whole different issue. But like charging an electric car on a 3-pin plug is very hazardous to both the car and your house, right? Because it's a 3-pin plug. It's not meant to output that volume of electricity for 24 hours straight. Like, that's how long it takes to charge up some of the bigger, faster cars. But if you look at where the charge points are going in now, you'll find them in shopping centres. We're in IKEA recently. They have charge points in IKEA now. There's some in across the road there in Decathlon. Leash Shopping Centre has them. Whitewater, I hear, is going to get some in as well in Portlaoise. There's a few in Kildare Village. I hate Kildare Village, by the way. I hate the place. It's an awful hole in the ground. I don't know why. It just become an awful place to go. But it does have charge points. They're starting to appear where we need them. The problem is we need more of them, and we need more of the 22 kilowatt chargers. And car companies, we need the bloody cars to charge at 22 kilowatts. That's the point. The only car that still charges at 22 kilowatts is a Zoe. That's the only one I know that does it, and even that's changing recently. Most electric cars at a 22 kilowatt charger will only pull 7 to 10 kilowatts, maybe 12 if you're lucky. That's all they'll do, and that's hardly fair. Thank you very much for the... Oh, don't mention my name, okay. Thank you very much for the PayPal. Thank you very much. You're very kind. PayPal, Patreon, and all the rest of them there if you want them. It's okay. 165 in the chat. If you don't want to, it's fine. You can go to bobflavin.com, buy a sticker or something, whatever you want to. Or you can just donate here or buy Super Chat or whatever you want to. Dermot Kelly, who keeps reporting my message? I'm doing nothing wrong. Dermot Kelly, I don't know. I'll tell you what we'll do. Put you in time out as well. Just to be on the safe side. Graham Cullen, right-hand drive. I once looked it up. 19 right-hand drive countries, only one without links to the UK with Japan. That is, that's the thing. We are actually in the majority. If you leave out America out of it particularly, we're in the majority of driving on this side of the road. There's very few countries actually drive the other side of the road, but the whole of Europe drives the other side of the road. So we need to change as well. What I'd like to do is go to bed some Sunday and then just stay at home for about 2 weeks, and then at the end of 2 weeks when you get up, all hell will have broken loose while you're out there, and the general carnage will be over, and it'll all settle down, and then I can drive out on the road and be on the other side of the road and it'll be all fine. Daniel Kisberg, hello Bob, any views on chipping a diesel Fiat Punto? What would you chip it to? Like, the diesel engine then was never built for performance in those Puntos. Punto. Do you know, I seen a Punto the other day on the M50. It's the first one I've seen in ages, and it was a 2015 one or 2016 or something. Like, it was a newish one. Like, it was weird to see these kind of cars that don't sell very much. And like, what happened to Tipo? That was a good car. Actually, what happened to Fiat? Like, why haven't they been selling cars? Very, very few sales. But yeah, you could chip a diesel Punto if you wanted. But what are you going to get out of it? Do you want to do some Reiki stuff or something? Because that's very frowned on these days. Keith Colin says the future tuning modding cars is going to be interesting. Lots of people getting a belt of high voltage. That is going to happen for sure. Plus you have on the other end of that, like Volkswagen's press conference was very interesting when the MD stood up and he said, really what we want to do is build a platform with the battery terminal, platform, wheels, all that stuff. You as a user just choose the exterior and interior of the car. So what do you want to see on the dashboard, the seats, then the exterior of the car is interchangeable. So essentially what he wanted to do is the MQB again, but make it this electric platform that was right across. So if you're going to buy, like if you go through it right now, you got ID4, ID3, Audi Q4 e-tron and Seat Born are all going to be on exactly the same platform, same batteries, and you have the Skoda Enyaq as well. So all those cars are on the same platform, same battery technology, same bits underneath, the brake system, all that. It's all exactly the same. To just change the exterior of the car. Why that hasn't made them a lot cheaper, I'm not sure. But you know what I mean, that they're making these cars so they're interchangeable. Now, how does that affect you? Is there a way that we could, and we've seen this before, where you could change, where you could go along to a place and change the exterior of your car because you get fed up with it, right? Because it's multifunctional. You take it off. What if we could change the interior? What if we could get automated driving so you're not looking forward, you're looking back into the cabin? This is what Mercedes were doing with their EQ range. When I went to the Frankfurt Motor Show, I think it was, EQ was there, and they had the interior of the car so that the driver's seat was able to turn and face inwards into the car. So they were talking about a lounge effect inside the car. Imagine having to look at your family all the way long, driving on long. Not enough to spend enough time at home with them all the time. Now you have to look at them while they're driving to your destination as well. Think of the glasses as you go on the road. Automated driving is going to be brilliant. I'm looking forward to the driving on the motorway. You know when you get out on the motorway, you just go, I just want to press a button and let it go on, you know? That'd be nice. Brian Donald says, Bob, Nissan Qashqai are coming out with their version of the Vauxhall Ampera, but I'd say it'd be pricey. That's the problem. There you go, Brian. You've hit the nail on the head. We're going to bring out these brilliant cars, but it's just going to be so expensive. It's just not worth it. That's what happened to the Ampera. I went to the international launch of the Ampera. I was there with Opel. Phil Hederman and all the other guys were there as well. I was driving with him for the day. And we drove the Ampera. I was really surprised by just how well it handled and went and drove, and it felt good to drive along the road. I was genuinely surprised by the car. And then you look at the price list and you go, who's going to buy that? Plus, it's a 4-seat car. I mean, it's only got 4. It's like an executive yoke. So who's going to buy that kind of car at that kind of price and have a Vauxhall or an Opel badge on the front of it? So with Nissan going to bring out something like it, and because it was a generator essentially inside it with a petrol engine generating electricity running as an electric car. Very clever, way ahead of its time. Mitsubishi with the Outlander PHEV, way ahead of its time as well. If they came out now, they'd sell like hotcakes from scratch. Like the PHEVs are still selling well, that Outlander. But remember, the Outlander's 3.5 tons weight, the early ones. Brian Coyle, what's your opinion on 1.6 diesel Astra 2016-2017? Are they good or bad? All cars are pretty good if they're looked after, Brian. The first thing I would ask there is, what is the service history of that car? That 1.6 diesel engine eats timing belts. So when they go, they go. So you really got to look at that timing belt has to be serviced on the money. Most diesels have to be serviced more often than a petrol. A petrol will put up with a lot more punishment for a lot more years than a diesel will. A diesel starts to smoke, it gets weird, it gets loud, it turns into a weird thing to drive, and then it eats its timing belt. So that's the same for that Astra as well. 1.6 Astra is not bad. You might get cheap tax on it, cheap insurance on it, but still, you're not going to get much power out of them because they're not designed for power. Hobbs Dorothy. Hi Bob. In the UK, cars for disabled offer Volvo XC40, but only hybrid, no diesel or petrol only. Really? Oh, they're starting to knock off that stuff. That's unusual, really, isn't it? That they only offer that as a hybrid for disabled drivers. Because obviously when a disabled driver is looking for a car, same here in Ireland, there is a list of acceptable cars that they will grant for it. And they'll give you grants to let you make the alterations to the car. So the list is not extensive. It's not every car on the road that can do it unless you have your own money to throw at it. But it seems unusual. Now, Volvo has gotten rid of diesel. So they are getting rid of their diesel engines, but not the petrol engine. I would have thought they'd give you now petrol. But Volvo is going hybrids, and then full electric. It's very warm today, isn't it? It's like humid. It's like I went for a run this morning. It's like running in soup, like porridge or something. You run along and the heat is hitting you. You feel the breeze in your face, but actually, It's not cold, it's still warm. Anyway, Noah begs, and he sent a Kia EV6 yet to get cars to a paddy review of it. I'm waiting for that. I was talking to Kia recently about that. As soon as it comes in, I'll get a spin of it. Not due till later on in the year. I think it's going to be after the Hyundai version. See, that's pushed by Hyundai Group, not Ireland, but Hyundai Europe. But I'm looking forward to that Kia version of it because there seemed to be a good car. But hopefully they've solved their kind of handling things. Like if you look, one of my favourite cars is a Kia e-Soul. And I like it. I still like it. But the handling of them is not brilliant. They do understeer a lot. And it's the bulk of the weight. Like most of these cars are 1,700, 1,800 kgs. That they're really heavy things. So that weight gets pushed along the road quite well. Still, it's one of my favourite electric cars out there. Mihal Hennessy, hi Bob, in your opinion, would it be worthwhile holding out for advancements in solid state battery technology before making a change to EV? I still think the best time to buy an EV is going to be next year or even the year after that. I think the closer we creep towards 2030, the better the cars have become. In the last 5 years, cars have gone from fairly ropey handling, just pure electric, just pure transport. Like taking the old Avensis, which is white goods, essentially, the old Avensis, right? It's very reliable, it's comfortable, it's acceptable in every possible form, but it's not exciting, it's not fast, it understeers everywhere, but it'll protect your family, it's fine. That's essentially where electric cars were going. They were going to be the basic thing, and that's where we had Nissan Leaf, and we started with that stuff, and then the Zoe came out. They were just transport. In the last 5 years, and particularly in the last 2 years, we've started to get cars that feel like good cars. And I'm talking about Mercedes EQA, the EQC, the ID4, ID3, they're all good cars. The Skoda Enyaq is a really good car. Say it's Elborn will be coming out soon enough as well. So there's a pile of things that are coming onto the market that are going to be much higher value and much better to run than the ones we have right now this minute. There's tons of stuff on the way to the market that's going to change how we behave and how we work with what's coming forward. And I think if you wait another 12 months to 14 months, you're going to see more of the cars on the road. And I'll try another couple of examples as well, like what Peugeot did. The 206, or was it 206? Whatever, the 208, the latest version of it. The electric version of that handles very well. It's a nice car to drive. The Opel Corsa, it handles very well. It's very nice to drive. There's loads of things that are on the market now that are pretty good that will only get better if we wait a little bit longer. So I would hang on for another couple of years before I get it. And plus, we don't know where grants are going. That was going up or down. We need to get more stuff on the market. That's what I would say. Greg says, hi Bob, loving the content. Looking for a good first car, preferably a hybrid in Ireland. I wonder about a Toyota Auris or Yaris. You think 2017 for a 17k is a good idea? Don't know about the prices. I don't really do prices of these things, so we tend to leave the price out. But the Auris is very good. The Yaris is pretty good. Now, they're not exciting, but they are good hybrids. Toyota, in my opinion, tends to rule that hybrid market for me. If you drive them properly, they're always pretty good. Yaris is a good buy. As a first car, it's small, cheap, easy to run, nice little small engine, won't kill you on petrol, cheap tax, cheap insurance, all that sort of stuff. I would go with the Yaris out of those two. But Corolla is a bigger car. Auris is a bigger car. It's back being a Corolla now. Rory says, hi Bob, I've ordered my Cooper Fermenter PHEV. Excited to collect next week. I think I'll love it. It's all my kids. Great car, PHEV. I think I have one next week. I think it's the PHEV one. Might not be the PHEV one. I'm not sure, but I'd have a Fermenter next week anyway. So it's a lovely car, but like I say, I think it's a little bit cartoony in places, which is good because it looks visually exciting rather than just kind of boring normal stuff. Peter Ucard, hi Bob, are Toyota giving you 10-year warranty and you have your car serviced at Toyota dealership in Ireland? Didn't hear about it. I don't read all the press releases, I have to say. I don't get the time to read them all, particularly when it comes to warranty. So they might have, but I don't think Toyota have a 10-year warranty on anything. But it wouldn't surprise me, if I'm honest with you. Anything that would keep you going to the dealership is what car companies want to do, because that suits the dealership nicely. Paddy says, Sweden changed overnight from right-hand drive to left-hand drive September 3rd, 1967. I've seen the one picture that exists from that day. That's why I say, change the side of the road and we'll all stay at home for a couple of weeks and then we'll relax until the carnage happens for a bit. And then we'll go back out to the lobby fine in the end, sooner or later. But yeah, I think we could, what would be the drawback? I'm sure we could do it. We could take a couple of years to get it right. If we just set a plan and go, by 2025, we're going to change the side of the road. On the 1st of January 2025, you're going to drive on the left. or on the right, whatever it is. We're going to drive the other side of the road, and then just be done with it. Like, I think it'd be great, because then you could just pop over there to France and buy yourself a nice used 2CV or something and bring it back, and it would be the right way around. End of story. Seamus McKenna, what will happen when there's a little flurry of snow and all the motors in England are piled up with cars stuck? How will it change or keep them warm? Well, in actual fact, electric cars, you can leave an electric car on with the heat running in the electric car for days, like days. If you're not going to drive it, you're probably going to stay there longer. Whereas petrol and diesel do actually run out and they don't last days when they're just taking over. They overheat and everything when they're sitting there. But I've never seen electric cars getting stuck anywhere that a normal petrol and diesel car would get stuck. Some electric cars are 4-wheel drive, like, so they all work. Very unlikely. Look at Norway, one of the colder places in Europe. They've been doing electric cars now for a long time, and there's no sign of them stopping or getting stuck anywhere. Killian Mulhall, do you find it's best insurance company to go with? There's no best one, Killian. Really, all you're looking for is the best price of any one of them. You've got to try to get the best price. You've got to try as many of them as you possibly can, but don't leave out ones like the post office. They offer that insurance. Super Value do their own car insurance. There's also a ton of brokers out there that are going to search 5 or 6 or 7 different insurance companies for you. So you really have to put the effort in to get the one you're looking for. Some people will be willing to pay a little bit more for someone like AXA or Allianz or AA or someone, whoever it is that are going to put out the insurance company. But really, if you want to get the best price, you just got to ring everybody, because essentially the cover is more or less the same across all the insurance companies. If you get fully comprehensive, that fully comprehensive policy is pretty much the same no matter who the company is. Just check details like roadside assistance. Do you get a free car if your car breaks down? If you're in a collision and your car is disabled, will they get you home? That sort of stuff. Windscreen cover, is it free? Will it affect your no claims bonus? What is the big one, of course, is what is the excess? So the excess on your policy is the bit you pay before the insurance company pays out. Most excess is about 350 quid. Some of them are 500 quid, which is a lot more. So for the first 500 quid of damage is your problem, no matter what your insurance is, then they pay the rest. So there's an awful lot of messing around. Once you get used to insurance, it's very easy to get a cheap quote after a bit. But check out everybody is the best thing to do. Ocean Froggy's here. Afternoon, Bob. How are you, Ocean Froggy? Thanks for your recent ID4 review. Helped me push me over the line. Did a review of the Kona EV did years ago. Enyaq was close call, but too expensive for the same spec. IQ5 and EV6 not here. Yeah, not here yet. ID4, great car. Still my favourite car to drive from a quiet, just sitting in a place, just sitting in it and just driving 120 kilometers an hour on the motorway. There's nothing like it. I drove that ID4 down to Longford. Didn't charge it, gave a spin down there to a lady who bought one as well. I drove it back up, hit an Ionity station on the way, was charged up in 10 minutes and off I went again. It's amazing when you get into the swing of electric cars, how easy it is or how simple it becomes. Now, I don't believe it's as cheap as everyone's making it out to be. I think it's actually starting to creep up a bit, particularly if you use fast chargers very regularly. Then you're going to creep that price up very quickly. Home charging still rules. If you want to get an electric car, do not go anywhere else without the home charging part. It's a game changer on the price of things. Home charging is much cheaper. And then you start to pay attention to other things like the bills of your house. You start to look at the bills on the ESB bill or the whoever you're with, electricity or whatever the company is, and you start to look at how much electricity is actually costing you, because now your ESB bill is going up because you're charging your car there. I got some great text messages over the last while from people who bought electric cars. I had one man who contacted me, said his ESB bill has gone wild. He bought a Tesla Model 3. My ESB bill has gone mad because I'm paying way more than I thought I was before, and the car I'm plugging it in every day and it's cost me a fortune. And I said, yeah, but you're not paying for diesel or petrol. Like, you've gotten rid of the petrol. And he goes, no, I just bought another car. He just bought another car. He just bought. Now he has 3 cars. What? Now he has a petrol, a diesel, and an electric car. And now he's paying for all 3 of them. It doesn't make any sense. Like, if you're going to buy an electric car, you need to replace something with it. Or it's a second car in the house. But your bills will go up to the value of charging your car. I would say 10 to 15 euro per charge is probably fairly realistic. For most places, and over 20 if you're going to charge at a faster charge point, at an Ionity or an ESB charge point, up close 20 quid, depending on which way you use the car. Some people charge it every day. When we had the MG here, we used to charge it probably once every week and a half or so, because it didn't really go very far, particularly as we had it during lockdown. So it's like every other week or so we charge it, but that charge was costed probably about 9 to 15 quid, somewhere between those two. So it does go up by that much, but you have to worry about that price. That comes later, after you've made your changeover. It comes later. Dave McCarthy says, in 30 years, will there be an EV barn finds? Will they run? At least the IC will find out engine parts. Maybe then it'll be... well, you see, EVs are so few moving parts. Like, they have all of the normal stuff a car has underneath. So they've got axles and they've got brake pads and brake discs. No, they've got all that stuff. That's quite normal. And suspension bits. But the actual motors and the drivetrain is only connected by one moving thing. It's essentially, if you try and think of a drive shaft that goes from the drivetrain to the motors, and that just spins the wheels. That's it. There's almost nothing that moves in them. And so technically they probably should last forever. But a battery that's not charged forever will probably go dead and flat, and that'll be the end of it. But we'll have to see how. We don't know. We haven't had batteries around long enough to actually... We can predict it, but we haven't had physical batteries around long enough. The older technology batteries like Generation 1 Nissan Leaf, they're long dead. They don't work no more. The range is so short in Generation 1 now, just like tiny, 80, 70 kilometers if you're lucky. Everybody I've seen who's after getting one is trying to get rid of them now at this stage. They're actually quite cheap. I think we could probably make one work here, but sure, who wants a Generation 1? The question is, will we be allowed to drive ourselves in 30 years? That's the thing, Keith. That's what I think will actually change. I think we will have to, I think the opposite in 30 years' time, if I'm around to see it, I have a feeling we will need a special permit to drive a car that isn't an automated driving car. So if you want to bring your 1967 Ford Mustang for a spin on the road, you will need a special permit, and you'll only be allowed to go to special areas that will allow you to drive like that. As you can see, there's a lot of people out there right now who are ripping the beautiful beating V8 and V6 hearts out of things and sticking in electric motors out of them. And going, wow, look what I've done. I've made myself a new car. And they've actually wrecked it. In my opinion, half the point of these cars is the noise and the pantomime attached that goes with them. It just won't be the same when they're all electric. I can see why, but it also won't be the same when we can't drive ourselves. Volkswagen have already put a limit. I think it's 2025 that they will have fully automated motorway driving, which is a big step for Volkswagen, because we're talking about autobahns here. We're talking about they use a lot of motorways. There is a lot of motorway space in Germany. If you've ever driven in Germany, you'll find you're getting on and off all kinds of motorways all the time to go everywhere. So it'd be a big deal if they actually do that, which is another part of the kind of getting rid of, because nobody wants to drive anymore. That's the theory behind it. Nobody really wants to drive in a motorway. We all want active cruise control and lane keeping and all that stuff. This is just a natural progression of it. We're growing up. Monovision says, only 64, like, we appreciate being here. Oh yeah, sorry, give him a thumbs up. Yes, please. 67 likes. There's been 160 of you here since the start. I know that some of you watch this on TV, and some of you stream this in an audio sense, so you don't actually see a like button. So that does happen from time to time as well. I ain't too worried about that part at this stage. There's a half an hour left in it. We'll be okay. Kieran Brown, hi Bob, it's much more civil here than TikTok. Yeah, TikTok has calmed down a little bit as well though. TikTok was like the Wild West for a little while, just because it was such a pile-on. Now I find Instagram is where the pile-on's starting to go that direction. So I have a lot more followers on Instagram than I had before, like 12,500 now. Which is giving me swipe up and stuff. You know, there's benefits to getting more followers on Instagram than there is on TikTok. You get nothing on TikTok. I have 127,000 followers or something on TikTok, and you get nothing from TikTok at all for that many followers. You're just as likely to lose your account as anyone who has 5 followers. Same thing. But it is a little bit more civil here because you have to do more registration on YouTube than you do on TikTok, because TikTok you can create an account in seconds and there's no traceability to it. Nothing. Just an email address is enough. Whereas here you need to go through the whole rigmarole. Patrick Walsh, oh Bob, I was driving past a Toyota dealership the other day with a RAV4 or something at the front offering a 15-year warranty. Was there? 15 years? Wow, that's amazing. I never really looked at warranty levels in Ireland, because 99% of warranty issues happen in the first 6 months. That anyone will tell you. Anyone who works in the trade will tell you that verbatim. Whether that's a true statistic or not is a whole different argument. But for me, Nearly everybody who buys a brand new car will be back in the first month, then the first 3 months, then the first 6 months, then you won't see them again. They'll disappear to the service time, because they get used to the creaks and the bangs and the noises and strange stuff that happens in their car. Then they start to ignore it after a while. For the first few days, they hear everything, every creak and noise and stuff in the phone. There's that creak from the back of my car, and noise. You know, there'll be murder over it, because that's the way they feel of it. So having a 15-year warranty sounds extraordinarily hard to deal with, because how would even the service division deal with a car that's 14 and a half years old coming in with a warranty issue? What you do, like, how would you even begin? My car is 14 years old. There's no way say I'd even look at it. Steve McCormick, what about Toyota IQ? That's a great car, little IQ. Thought they were improving over the Smart. Did not seem to take traction. No, too small, I think, and I got a couple of bad reviews because of its size. But I actually thought the IQ was a very clever car. It's tight, it's small, it fits in smaller parking spaces. You could easily park 2 or 3 of them side by side in an ordinary parking space. They were a little bit pricey in this country, but all cars are a little bit pricey in this country. But I was surprised we didn't see a lot more IQs hit the market here in this country, because it's just a lovely car to look at. And now there's none. Essentially, you very rarely see one driving up the road. But they were very clever and just well sorted at the time. Luke Gibbs. Hi, Luke Gibbs. Haven't seen you in ages, Luke Gibbs. Which is better for Ford Ranger, 3.2 or the newer 2-litre biturbo, the 3.2 by miles? Nothing particularly wrong with the bi-turbo engines that they put into the Ford Rangers now, but the 3.2 was a rock solid car. Would drag anything up a hill anywhere and never give any trouble. Even in the automatic, the power shift box is pretty good in them. The 2-litre bi-turbo engine will do the same thing, but it uses a big turbo to do that as well, and I'm always a little bit nervous of something that size, a 2-litre turbo engine, trying to pull a massive trailer behind it into a field. So I would go with the old 3.2 plus the 3.2. Sounds nice. Buy a Wild Track. They're the ones to get. Alan Kelly. Are you the politician? No. Not sure if this is an easy question to answer, but why do plug-in hybrid cars use a gearbox but pure electric cars don't have a gearbox? Because there's essentially 2 motors in a PHEV or a plug-in hybrid of any kind. You've either got a diesel and petrol standard engine that does one job. Usually that will drive the front wheels. And then you have a hybrid connection on the back of that, which is another electric motor, which would usually power the back wheels, or some combination of those 2 things. So essentially you've got the 2 motors that can run together, or one motor can do a job on its own, but the drive is on a different place. Sometimes they put all the drive in the front, sometimes they put it in the front and the back. But realistically, the electric unit doesn't really need a gearbox. In other words, it doesn't need to change a gear to do something else. It just needs the one gear to spin faster. So essentially, they're all one gearbox, no gearbox. Apart from Porsche, who put in 2 gearboxes. They put in a second gear. So do Audi in the RS. What's that other little car that they do? The e-tron GT. They put the double gearbox in the back. I don't know why. I'm not sure why they need it. They're the only company that actually put in a second gear into it. I know it's to make it go faster at lower speeds, and when you put your foot down and change the gears. I get it, but it seems overcomplicated for what you need, considering how fast a Tesla is with no gearbox. But no, they don't need 2 gearboxes. Steve McCormick, by the way, bringing in an left-hand drive news, and here the main issue is headlights need to be swapped out. That's right. They're facing the wrong way, so the headlights face up the ditch. On a right-hand drive car, the headlight on the left is higher to shine up along the ditch. On a right-hand drive car, it's left, the right-hand side of the car is higher. It blinds everybody coming at you. Thomas Hyder, good day, Bob. Missed you lately. Oh, that's all right. All still new. New Orleans. Oh yeah, good man. I spent $2,000 to get my AC fixed in my 2006 Ram pickup. Oh my God. New Orleans is somewhere without AC is not an option. Well, I haven't had AC in my Seat Leon since probably 2 years in. It broke. I bought it in 2006. By 2008, the air conditioner was broken, and it was a common fault in Audi. I went back to Waters Garage to get it fixed, but they couldn't fix it because there was no one in Ireland who was fixing air conditioning at that time. It was so rare to have air conditioning in 2006, 2007, the car, that nobody wanted to fix it. And then I went to a crowd who re-gassed it, but sure, the gas all just came back out straight out because the valve broke on it. And so we never fixed it. So we never had air conditioning on the Leon, and I'm not going to put it on now. After all this time, it probably cost me $2,000 to fix it as well. Graham Cullen. EV barn finds will be missing the lump of copper in the engine. I like that. Same as all the, what do you call them, Prius, all missing their catalytic converters. I see the Japanese import versions of them all come with a sticker on the side that says "cat secured." What are they securing them with? They're welding something on the bottom or something. Because I know a friend of mine sent me a picture of someone stealing a catalytic converter from Dublin. They were caught doing it, but they literally pulled into a car park, jacked up the car. They had it off. They were leaving, but the guards pulled up beside them and they caught them. But it seems to be a common thing to happen. Terrific spokesman. I thought it said traffic spokesman for a minute. In the UK, there was a guy called Mark Key who was importing Lada Nivas again. I love those Nivas. Yeah, Johnny Smith did a review of the Lada Niva, and he sank it. He sank it. But it looks good. The cheap of it. I like cheap. There's something unique about a cheap, ordinary car. You know what I mean? Just something that has no excuses. Like the original Dacia Sandero and the original Lada Riva and the Niva and all those cars that are coming out. There's something quite ordinary about it, in that they become super cool. Like if you go to France and you look at some of the ladies who lunch, you know, they wear beautiful clothes and they get out of like a 2099 Clio, you know, because it's cool. It's cool. They like it and it looks cool. And that's because there's something a little bit more unique about older cars, and they've nothing left to prove. They're like the old man of the sea. You know, there's nothing left to prove on them. So I suppose this idea that Lada Nivas are going to come back out in the UK, I don't know if we're going to get them here. We are starting to get the MG stuff out here. Dacia is starting to use LPG gas. You know, there's stuff that's going on around right now that has not to do with electric. That's just seems to be working as well. Daza, wife did not hand a cup of tea. She's off getting garden stuff again. My wife gardens, by the way. This is something that happened during lockdown. She started a garden. So now we have a garden. Now she watches Monty Don. Lads, telling you, if you want your wife to see some dude on television who's non-threatening, but he's a lovely man, you'd have a pint with him, but your wife fancies him. Monty Don on Gardener's World. I'm telling you, he's a big man. Big agricultural head in him, but fierce, intelligent, or sounds intelligent anyway. But she started gardening, and ever since now, every time we want to do anything, it has to involve a garden centre. Like, we have to go to the garden centre. She's going to have to get compost or something as well. She'll come back with 6 trees, and a rose bush or some stuff will appear as well. And all of a sudden I walk out and I'll have a different backyard again. All I want to do is have a bit of grass so I can stretch my feet out and do some stretches in the backyard. But no, it's alright. We get a little yoga vibe going now because we have a different backyard again. So no, she's not here to have me a cup of tea today. I made my own tea and it's gone cold now because it's like an hour and a half old at this stage. Hi Bob, what cars do you own? I have a 2006 Seat Leon, my own car, lovely little yoke. We've never had trouble with it, so we've just got a massive the most amount of money we've ever spent on that car was spent 2 weeks ago when we bought a set of 4 tyres for it, and we did a full service including water pump and timing belt, and it needed there was a sensor gone, the ABS sensor or something, steering angle sensor or something was gone in it as well, and all because it was sitting up for a month. It sat up for I think a month and a half. We didn't start it, just sat outside, and that's where it stayed. And then when we did start, it was like no. And then the AA came to rescue. A lovely guy called Francis came to rescue one day, and I was sitting there looking at the car and wouldn't start, and I contacted the AA and went to help me, and Francis came out and he sorted it out, and I've been getting text messages about Francis ever since. His daughter's been in touch, very famous now. He was on my Instagram and everything. The 3.2 sounds a lot more reliable than a truck like a Ranger. I don't think the 2-litre bi-turbo will last 100,000 miles without a lot of work on a new engine. I don't think any of them will at that age. Graham Cullen, when I had an MX5 Mark II, the new car noise was incredible. Wind and tyre noise seemed to roar. The sound of rain and a synthetic leather roof was so different to metal. That's what happens. People move from their old car that creaked and made noises, but they stopped hearing it. They stopped listening to it. Then they get a new car and give out crap to the dealership because it's a new car. That's what happens. And they end up going back to whole time with new car noises and problems and things. And I didn't like the sound of that. I need to fix it. That happens a lot. Alan Kelly is not the politician. He's a dodgy singer. Okay, fair enough. That's all right. Just checking it wasn't Alan Kelly, the politician. We've had a couple of politicians in before. Well, when I say we've had I don't know if we had the real ones or not, but they're in people talking to us. Tony S says, hi Bob, James May on Drive Tribe is delighted with the new updated Toyota Mirai hydrogen car. Only 4 fueling stations in the UK, none in Ireland as I understand. Any thoughts on hydrogen for cars? I don't know. It's hard to say because on one side people say that hydrogen is going to be the fuel of the future. Most people are saying that, work for Toyota, I have to say. And on the flip side, people say that BEV, battery electric vehicles, are hugely efficient and hydrogen's a waste of time. I'm still one who would say I don't mind the choice of fuels. There's only 4 fuel stations, so if we even had one on the island of Ireland, it'd be a start. But obviously there is one being built in Belfast. But if we got one somewhere towards the Dublin zone, I don't see it as being a problem. We have had some hydrogen fuel stations that went on fire, mind you. Might not be a great thing to have in, but that was in Los Angeles, and they're American, so they're weird. But I think hydrogen cars will have a certain amount of future if people like James May or like Toyota, who continue to sponsor things like that, would be something that would be worth looking at, because choice is good. Choice is always a good thing to have. So if we can have more choice, we can have better prices. I think the Niva looks quite cute. I think it does too. Yeah, Johnny Smith was saying it was actually a pretty good car, and he liked it. I liked them too. Hi Bob, I found the like button for watching on Smart TV. That took a long time, Stuart. They are hard to find. Press the play button and move up for options. That's what you need to do. It is hard because I know a lot of you watch on television, or I'm on TV, or I'm on a side-by-side split screen thing with something else. So I know a lot of people don't do the like button because they don't see it, and because YouTube doesn't really promote it. You think at this stage YouTube would send a little message out on my video that would pop up on the screen, go and click the like button. That would pop up there. But no, they leave that up to me. They think I don't want to do that. I don't know how to run this. I've been doing this for years and I'm still not quite sure how I do this. I just sit here and talk. Dave McCarthy says hydrogen for passenger cars is useless. It would be billions changing corner gas stations. The hydrogen only oil companies will want us to go hydrogen. See, there's always a flip side to every argument, and that comes up a lot. So some people would say hydrogen is absolutely rubbish. Other people say hydrogen is okay. Just depends on who's paying the bills, I think, and what organisation you want to listen to more. I would still say that electric cars at the moment would be the short-term and long-term future. You got both going on. It wouldn't be that hard to make those continue to work and get more efficient. It is harder and harder to get a hold of battery packs and get a hold of the technology behind the battery and the circuits and the chips and all the stuff that runs it. But hydrogen itself is such a big gamble to bring hydrogen into a country. And then, you have to have them near enough to be able to get them to play. There's so much that needs to be done to get hydrogen running, whereas we have electricity everywhere right now. JP Devon says, cars hate sitting for extended periods. Sounds like your lane has no exception. No, absolutely hated it. I couldn't believe how fast I went down. It went from a daily driver to sitting standing still for a month and a half. And after a month and a half, every light in the dashboard was on. Every one of them. So it was... I was looking at the dashboard going, oh no, here we go. Some of them could be corrected just by using the diagnostic system to reset the error code. But realistically, once I gave it to Dalton's, they had a look at it and went, yeah, this is what it needs. Here's what you're going to spend. And it came to a little over €1,000 to get it all back on the road. But what could I buy for that kind of money? And the car trading in. Like, what are you going to get for that? We were considering moving down to a smaller car, like something like a Seat Me or Skoda Citigo or one of those little small cars. But they're expensive. Even they're fetching big money. And what if you just end up buying into trouble? Like, what if you just go up a few years and you end up buying something that is a problem? Whereas I know every nut and bolt on the Leon. Every one of them. I know exactly what fails, what doesn't fail on the NCTs. By the way, it's never failed NCT. So I know all the stuff. So there's no point in changing over. Kieran Brown, what happens when people start selling second-hand electric cars? They're already doing it, and the batteries are dead. What happens if batteries are replacement? The batteries over €7,000. So far, we haven't seen that many modern batteries that are completely flat or dead and gone. Secondly, they're building a lot of cars with the batteries that you replace individual cells, which is also possible. And thirdly, we're now finding ways to reuse the battery over time. So if a battery does actually need to be replaced, it's taken out and goes off and gets another life entirely. It either goes onto the side of your house to power your house from there on out, or it'll be put into a group of things that are powering buildings and shopping centres. It's all happening, right? It's slow, but it is happening. But most of the time, the batteries, the current model batteries, have proven themselves to be really reliable on how much they hold their charge with. how far they've gone. There just really isn't, like, according to Toyota, they said words, we're not in the business of selling batteries. So they're not interested in replacing batteries, and most car companies don't want to be talking about batteries. They have 8 year warranty on most of them, and so they'll outlast some of the cars that are there too. Paul S. Hi Bob, the Hyundai Ioniq Hybrid DCT better than the Corolla CVT? You mean the gearbox is versus the two? Modern Corolla CVT is, you don't really listen to it, you don't really hear it anymore. It's such a light little handy gearbox. Hyundai Ioniq DCT is quieter. It's a quieter gearbox to use. Whether you pick one over the other, I mean, I'd probably go with the Corolla anyway, because I really like the reliability of Corolla, Toyota. They're nice to drive. They're a good car. They look well. Whereas the Ioniq was one of my hated cars, I have to say. Not the current generation Ioniq, previous generation Ioniq, like from 2019. I hated it. I thought it was a horrible car to drive. Just the seating position was wrong. They've shoved batteries in everywhere to the cars. Now, it probably wouldn't be with the hybrid version of it, but I still found it a very awkward car to sit in and drive. The suitcase trio. Help me convince my wife that a 2007 Porsche Cayenne or similar is cheaper, cooler and more luxurious choice than dropping 50k on a new electric car. It's certainly a better car, the Porsche Cayenne, but it's 2007. You are buying into a world of pain if that car goes wrong, because that's an older car. Porsches don't tend to go wrong. They're usually pretty good, but yes, you know, if something goes wrong, that's going to cost a fortune. But they are cool cars for sure, far cooler than any electric car out there right now. And if you have 50k handy, you pick up a Porsche Cayenne and all its repair bills for a lot less than that. Terrific Spokesman says again, for everyone that didn't know, the Nivas is that he's important a Niva Legend classic design, and they're brand new, but they can still get them base model with no AC and manual windows, as you should be. The more manual the better. Shane Doyle, I got an E30 325i M Sport. What do you think of them? They're good, no problem with them. 325i's are always deadly. It's been one of my favourite engines for years, 325i. I drove a 325i convertible once upon a time. It was absolutely gorgeous. The noise from the engine, just loved. Now it was obviously a sunny day, but it was a lovely thing. Kieran Water says hydrogen for long range transport and things like buses, BEV for passenger cars. That's what I'm thinking as well, because like, where are passenger cars going? I mean, they want them out of cities. If you look at what we're doing with cities like Paris, even Dublin, anywhere really right now, cities are starting to close off their areas for passenger vehicles. Paris has been doing it for a long time. Paris traffic has been chronic for a very long time, but they do cut off little areas that only taxis can go into. They're trying to get rid of people out of the city in cars, which means that they need a public transport version of that. But long range driving is where it's going to be. I would foresee public transport or private transport becoming more of a personal transport thing, like bicycles, electric bicycles, sit down things, you know, smaller devices, because there's more of us on the planet now, and it's harder to pack us all into city environments. Keith Colton, we have to keep it in mind that we only ramping up car tech and changing tech, and going to be another few years of change before we get to maturity. That's true. You're still talking probably another 10 years of development before we get to the point of where we've been for 100 years with cars. So cars started out 1840 something, first electric car, right? So way back up to 1914, electric car was the leader, and then Henry Ford, Model Ts and all, they all came out of petrol cars, gasoline powered cars, because of the war, because of the First World War. That's what really drove that getting away from electric thing. They can make them faster, cheaper. They cost very little. We're at the same point now. We're at exactly the same point now. We're making a decision now, but we have more money now. The distance is still quite big between petrol and diesel cars and electric cars. We're slowly getting there. I think within the next 10 years, we'll stop worrying about the range of electric cars. How far does it go? Does anyone ever ask that about a petrol car? You know, when you're in a dealership with a petrol car, the first question on your mouth is, how far can it go on a petrol car? Because it doesn't matter, because you can fill it up anywhere. Whereas it's a little bit trickier on electric cars. So you worry about how far it can go, but actually how far it can go is only a guesstimate at best. Frank Castle, the new Leon is better than a Golf. Can't choose between the two. Pretty much the same, Frank. I prefer the look of the Leon. Now I will stick a proviso in that the Seat Leon infotainment system is a disaster zone. I think it's just too complicated and it breaks down quite regularly. I had 2 Seat Leons on test, and both of the infotainment systems froze on them, completely stopped. Couldn't use Apple CarPlay. I had to get out, lock the car, get back in, start it up again to make it work again. So that was just Seat Leons, and I've had 3 Golfs, and it didn't happen to any one of them. Even though they're the same car, the electronics are different somewhere in them. The one I enjoyed the most, of course, is the GTI Club Sport. Brilliant car, God! But that's probably not in your in your list of things to buy. But I would go for the Golf out of those 2. If you get the light bar across the front of the Golf, it takes that kind of droopy look off the front of it as well. It's just a nice car to drive. A little bit more expensive, but worth the difference. Seat, Volkswagen, they're all reliable. They're all reliable. They've been reliable for a long time. There's an awful lot of them on the road. But like Leon handles pretty well. There's ups and downs to both cars. But remember, you have to live with it. That's where the infotainment system comes in. You have to live with that. Eventually, you have to live with everything. Toyota CVT gearboxes are eCVT, these ones, yeah, electronic controlled CVTs. Gearbox, not the standard belt-driven CVT gearboxes. No, not anymore. New eCVT gearbox is different from CVT, which is basically elastic bands doing their job. So they're all a little bit different from each one. How are you, Jim Street? It's always good to have you here. Look after yourself. See you later. Terrific problem. Carl Finnegan. With the price of electricity and this country's record of prices going up, I can see charging electric cars in the future being more expensive to charge and fill up of diesel, petrol. Wait and see. I would suggest you're probably right on the street, but what can you do with home charging? Home charging is on your ESB bill, right? So it's the same rate to run the lights in this house as it is the same, well, that's a battery light, as it is the same rate to charge the electric car. So it's impossible to say that the government will just penalise you to have an electric car by charging you some sort of tax at home for charging your car. That doesn't make any sense, because no one will buy an electric car. That would cause riots in the street, because the electric car lovers out there would go wild, obviously, at that point. I would say the Leon, because it's different from what others have. New Golf is good. New Golf is good, yeah. Leon does look nice. Just the electronics just drove me mad. We were down in Clare and we had the Leon, and we're leaving a place, and I set the sat nav to go home, and of course sat nav was starting to guide me, and then it went silent and the screen just froze, and I had to pull over. We all had to get out of the car and stop the car, lock the car, unlock the car, get back in, start the car again, and then the screen fixed, and we drove on home. But it was just one of those moments where you go, my God, this is infotainment broke down. I have never had an old radio, my Seat Leon, go wrong. It just works. You get in, press the button, it turns on. That's it. There is nothing else. It's deadly. With the Shane Doyle, he said that as well. Samuel Thompson, hi Bob, I have a Ford S-Max Titanium 2014, shudders badly when braking. Any ideas? New discs and pads. If it's only under braking that it shudders, it's the discs have warped on you. So essentially, you got a disc in the middle, you got 2 pads either side of that. When you press the pads, you close the disc and you just create drag on the disc, and that's what slows the car down, is a disc pass between the brake pads. When you get uneven brake wear, so when a pad on one side wears faster than the other, you sometimes get brake warp. So the brake disc gets a little bump in it, like a buckled wheel. As it's going around, it's got a little buckle to it. It starts doing this, doing this. So when you press, you get that vibration going. It's spinning very fast, so you'll get that sort of a vibration up through it, or you'll get a shudder feel throughout the whole car. It's coming from your brake disc. It's an easy solution. Changing brake disc is not a massive job, but it is expensive because it's time consuming. It takes a long time to jack the car up, take off the wheel, take off the entire brake system, take off the brake disc, put on the brake disc, put on new brake pads, bleed the system out and put in new brake fluid. It's quite a long thing to do. Not, as far as I know, very common for S-Max to do that. I've never heard that complaint before about them, so maybe it's just an unusual one. But yeah, new discs would be where you're going. While you're there at the disc, you change the brake fluid, you change the brake pads. While you have stuff off, get the other stuff done that you'll have to do eventually anyway. I clicked the wrong thing there. Sorry. Patrick Waltz, new homemade tool holders made out of old beds, headboards, recycling. That's exactly what you want. It's reusing the stuff you've got instead of buying something new to replace everything you've got right now. That is the key to saving the planet, is to stop consuming everything you see in sight. Stop replacing everything you've got. Keith Grissom says, hey Bob, can you recommend a good wireless Android CarPlay dongle? There's no such thing as a good wireless Android. There is acceptable ones that actually work. The problem is most wireless yokes are quite glitchy. It's only this year that I've seen the stock standard wireless Apple CarPlay going into Volkswagen and into BMW, and it's become reliable. Every other time it's always been a little bit glitchy, and that's because the software on your phone changes and the Android software or the Apple CarPlay software doesn't change. So you need to have an update between the two of them. But there's no, as far as I know, Keith, there is no good wireless one that's out there for Android CarPlay dongles. You would have to change the whole head unit. It'd be much better ones to do. I've heard the Nissan X-Tronic CVT gearboxes, which I think are standard belt-driven CVTs, are the worst gearbox for reliability. I've never heard CVT being a problem with reliability, to be honest with you. But then they do come up. From time to time it does come up, and you will find that some of them will be unreliable because not all gearboxes are reliable anyway. New Seat Cooper RS, hopefully my next car. Is a good car. Coopers are brilliant. I love Coopers. Coopers are just a good car to drive. It's like what Seat should have been all along. You know what I mean? They should have been a little bit sporty all along, but they weren't. They just kind of did in the background. Bob, CVTS versus dual clutch, what's the best MPG performance? MPG is never good on any of them compared to a manual, but dual clutch gives you the best fuel economy at higher speeds. CVTS will give you better fuel economy in cities. It sounds weird, but that's kind of where, that's why Toyota and all those cars go with some version of a CVT or eCVT or CVTS. They'll all go with that because city driving is where they sell most of their cars. Paul S is there. Samuel Thompson. Kieran Brown. If a first-time driver bought something cheap under 1.4 and after they passed the test, how long should it wait to upgrade a decent car? Till you can get your 1 year no claims bonus. You want no claims bonus because it brings your insurance down. That's what you want. Hold on to your car for as long as you can, though. Hi Bob, looking for a car for elderly friend. He's looking at the Kona and likes that size. Any recommendations other than the Kona? Many thanks. That's just small 5-door hatchback. So you're looking at there. Like if you're looking at Kona like hybrid, look at the Toyota Yaris. Yaris is my favourite in that range at the moment. They make a really, really good car. Really easy to drive, simple interface, totally reliable. 5-door, same size, and probably a little bit cheaper than Kona. More room in the back seat than the Yaris as well. I know elderly probably won't use the back seat that much, but there is more room there. I think it's just bad Nissan CVT gearboxes, which are bad. I think that, well, Nissan had problems with CVT for years because they had so many of them. That was the problem with Nissan. Listen, it is just coming up to 4 o'clock. We started early as well. We're just about there. Thank you very much for joining me today. You're very good to be all here. There was at least 2,000 of you here today, bopping in and out, which is quite nice because the playback says over 2,000 people have joined us. You can find me on various platforms, obviously on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook. Our car meet is on the 31st of this month at 7 p.m. in Junction 14 Mayfield. Tickets are available on Eventbrite if you want to have a special place to actually park your car and a place to drive in and out. It's very good of you to join in today. It's not so great for Connor Daly there, who's a dope. But that's okay, because dopey lads are allowed to be here as well. Just not stupid people. Right, Connor? Anyway, 31st of the month, drop on over. Junction 14 on the 11th of this month will be the Cars and Coffee morning. On the 18th will be Portlaoise Plaza. We'll move the Cars and Coffee around. The Portlaoise Plaza one will have trucks at it, which seems exciting even for me, and I know nothing about trucks. But the 31st of the month is where you want to be. It's probably going to be one of the bigger meets of the year, if I'm honest with you. Then there's a few more that is going to come as well in later on in the year, which will be quite interesting. We'll have to get rid of you, unfortunately. You are a dope there, Connor. Good luck. Goodbye. The 31st will be an interesting time to have you all along as well. Please drop along to that one if you want to physically meet people like myself and Jason McConnell and all the rest of the guys that you see and hear on TikToks and stuff around the place. Bring along your car, no matter what the car is, it's fine. You can always park and go in and get yourself a Supermax or something in Junction 14 when you're there. If it goes well that night, we'll make that a monthly meet. You'd be surprised how fast that'll build up to a monthly meet. Thank you very much for joining. And until the next time, I will see you on the far side.